Don't you walk on me.
Hey everyone, Victor Lucia here, bringing you episode 59 of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. We're back in action after a social media hiatus. Thank you, Instagram. And guess what? Our holiday sale is kicking off early. Dive into savings with the code FISH in all caps for an extra 20% off all orders. Your loyalty keeps me going, so I thank you all for sticking around. Now check out one of the best episodes I've ever recorded to date.
It's a family thing. My family's from Miami originally, so I grew up in an environment where we were on the water. You know, Dad worked a lot, but outside of that, it was how can we go enjoy the rest of the time. A lot of time in the Keys, and from my first memories, we lived on a canal. So I think I've got a picture I can show you where I'm wearing diapers and I caught 2 fish on a Rapala. And that's my first actual fishing memory. But yeah, it's just been a part of my life.
That's amazing. 2 fish on a Rapala. How old do you think you were there? Like 2?
Yes, I think it was 2.
That's amazing.
Haven't done it again since. But
one and done.
Yeah, that's all you need.
So let's get to the story of Hen Lures. How did this all begin? You know, how did you go from just being a guy who loves to fish to somebody who got into the industry and is now making baits?
Well, I'm 42 years old now, so growing up fishing, it was a lot different environment than it is today. You know, you can go on Amazon and grab stuff. You can go to a number of, bait companies out there that are making amazing products and they'll get it to your doorstep. We didn't have that. I was in Plantation, Florida, and Isla Mirada in the Keys. That's basically where I was at. And if you could get into a tackle shop, it was very limited. And as a kid, they didn't want to deal with me. It wasn't this, let me show you this and that. It was where are mom and dad, and do you have money for that kid? Outside of that, you pay and get out of there. So I had access to amazing fishing, amazing people. The nuggets that they would give you were priceless, like legitimately priceless. After that, it's go figure it out on your own. So I would say I was probably, 12 or 13 when I started making tuna baits to fish offshore. Fell in love with fly fishing, and that was a whole other rabbit hole that I went down. So I was tying flies in my teens and chasing fish that way. So it really, Hen Lures, when people ask, it's hard to really define a point because I've been doing this my whole life. It just really throughout the pandemic, watching other opportunities disappear, it just became more and more. Had friends buying baits, and a few years later now we're doing it full time, me and one employee.
So how did the pandemic impact you?
At that point, I was doing professional photography, videography, and I still was doing okay, but as businesses didn't have money to spend on marketing, I was catering only to small local businesses, no big contracts outside of the county, which was great. But that again, those things start to dry up. And in a world where you're not trying to be face to face with people, it becomes pretty difficult to generate new business with a straight face and a smile and feel good about yourself. So I just had more time on my hands, and it wasn't even a choice as much as this sort of took over the other one before I could even build the business back up.
It was do or die. Catch fish or die trying.
I'm just trying to eat, man. That's it.
Just like the fish.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, man. So what have been some of the toughest obstacles in creating this business?
Man, it's the list is long, from how difficult it is to make a good bait to how difficult it is to make a good bait that looks good and people want to buy, to running a small business, in today's environment and the place that we live. There's a lot of challenges that come with it, but I don't know that it would be worth, doing if it kind of came easy. Or at least there'd be even more people than there already are doing it.
And there's a lot of people doing it.
Absolutely. I can't say that I had a unique idea in doing this, and credit to the guys that really in the last 5 years pushed it and showed that there were, more options out there and the ability to make something new and different. And a lot of young guys that I see doing it that I can't wait to see what they do with it. They're half my age. So God, by the time they're in their 40s.
When you're first getting started, what is going into making those first baits? Like what was the process right at the beginning like?
So it's kind of funny how it all came about. One of my good friends here, Robbo, who I've known for a while through surfing and just life in general.
Shout to Robbo.
Robbo's the man. Robbo hit me up because I was already tying some bucktails. So I had a few molds. I was pouring lead. And he asked if I could pour some swim bait heads because he was having trouble finding the ones he wanted. Found that mold, started doing that. And like a week or two later, he's like, hey, man, you're already making heads. Why don't you start making some swim bait bodies? Like, dude, this is a trap, isn't it? So the first bait, actually, I went to one of those craft stores and grabbed modeling clay, modeled out what I thought was a finger mullet, felt like it in my hand, looked like what I wanted to fish. And that was the very first mold master that I made. And same place, grabbed silicone, anybody can do it. Made a mold and started messing with it. And probably 2 months of hand sanding it down and testing and hand sanding and testing, I got something that was, essentially what it is today in the 4.5, which was our first bait that came out.
A lot of brands make their baits, like these types of baits, overseas, right? Like how many people are actually sourcing their stuff and making it here in America?
I think there's still a good number, but yeah, when you get down to the guys that are on large scale production, quite a few are coming from overseas. The smaller guys, there's plenty of hand pourers out there, and even some I know for facts are hybrids, without going into names, where they've got production stuff that comes from somewhere else, and then they still, get down on the custom stuff.
So it comes from somewhere else, and then they say that it's made in the USA, even though it's not, because
it's made somewhere else, but it's made. They say on the back of the package on the ones I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you can, if you read right by the barcode, you'll know.
Read between the lines, folks. So what makes your brand of baits unique from these other ones?
Just, I don't know. It's me. It's all me and my buddies' ideas.
It's made in America.
Made in America right here in Jensen Beach, Florida. And made by hand by me or my highly paid employee, Dewey.
Shout to Dewey.
Dewey is a legend. He's been on for a year now and has really allowed me to push a lot of things where we're developing stuff faster, and we're going to try to do things even better than we've been doing.
So let's talk about some of the baits that you have that haven't come out yet, specifically the crab.
Yeah, we have a crab that most of the development has been on getting it to move the way we want in the water, and it works. But yeah, I don't know when that one will come out. There's a few things that we've been kind of holding back for one reason or another. But having just recently got into CNCing aluminum, I'm going to have more opportunities, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. How about that sheep's head that you caught on this prototype? Tell that story.
Actually, that was
crazy.
That was actually on a true fly, on a fly that my buddy Rex tied for me over at Worldwide Fly Works. Rex is the man. We went out snook fishing just at night, messing around, me and my buddy Brandon. Brandon Damron from Hell Yeah Brother. Check out Hell Yeah Brother. Get your head right. Everything else will follow. So we were out doing that, man. We were having a good time laughing. We struck out. I don't think either of us caught a snook. I don't think we caught anything really until after sunrise. And we were headed back to the ramp and saw a bunch of crabs on top. And we both had our fly rods. So he was throwing the Shrino as a gummy fly, one of our baits, and I was throwing a dry crab fly. And in like 3 minutes, we caught the two biggest sail cats I think I've ever caught, right on top too. Just blew us up. Both of us set like we had a tarpon on. That's what we were chasing, was tarpon. hammer these things. And we're like, what the heck? So we're giggling like kids, heading back to the ramp, and where, there would be a shadow line by a bridge. It was daytime, nothing going on. We hear a few pops. So I set up the boat and was like, oh, okay, maybe we'll get a little snook or something. And, a few minutes in, I'm just drifting this thing directly in the middle, 12 feet above bottom, 30 feet from any structure, and get smoked. And I mean, smoked. I thought it was like a 20-pound snook. So I'm maneuvering the boat around, trying to keep this thing out of the pilings and bring it up. And it's a, I don't know, 8-pound sheep's head, 10-pound sheep's head, giant. It was amazing. Out of nowhere.
Like, does a bigger bait take longer to make than a smaller bait, or is it the same amount of time? Like,
yeah, no, it's exponential. As you increase the amount of plastic, it just takes that much longer for it to cool, which is the biggest issue in making baits. Where our smallest bait, it's an injection. There's 20, I want to say, per injection, and we can pull those out of the mold within like 90 seconds. Our biggest bait, we've got a 9-inch dredge sardine. That one takes north of 10 minutes to be sure that it's cooled, once we're running. So it's much more about that time and the time to cycle through baits and the amount of space to be able to do that than it is about like the dollar cost that goes into the plastic and the glitter and the pearlescence and all that stuff.
right. Do you think there's a common misconception that like it's really cheap to make these baits? Like they don't, they don't cost that much to make. I think part of that misconception is the amount of time it takes to make them, right?
I think, I think if you applied what people assume about baits to a company like Hen Lures or, one of the other guys that are doing things themselves or with a small group, then certainly it's a misconception. But I think it's more just a lack of understanding of the breadth of the market. There are baits that are being made on a scale, of thousands and thousands a day in factories overseas. And that's fine. You don't need certain things to be, crazy, intuitive and expensive and the best of the best of the best. If you're chasing 1 million crappie in a pond that's got 10 million crappie, like use a China bait, man. Like, don't be dumb. But, and no offense to China, no offense to anybody, but, I think that when you assume that everything's that way, and now you got guys that are using the most expensive plastic that you can possibly get your hands on because it is the best, and they're using the best inputs, and they're paying somebody who's really darn good to do it. It's a whole different ball game. So it's sort of like going to buy a car and negotiating, a used Pinto against a Tesla. You're being a little ridiculous.
So how do you come up with the colors? And well, that's the first part. Yeah. How do you come up with the colors, and how do you know when to throw different colors?
Coming up with the colors some of it is things that you see that, people are going to want to fish, a mullet, a greenback, the handful of those things. You go through that. Then you got your typical or atypical bright colors, things that fit maybe, a mullet pattern, dark back, light belly, but you go with an orange and a yellow, or a pink and a yellow, or a chartreuse, there's that, bright route. And then there's just sort of the stuff that you can come up with in between, that's, for me, that's the fun part, whether it's by accident or on purpose, just messing around and coming up with new stuff that looks a certain way I want it to look in the water, or behaves a certain way with certain water quality.
So I have in my backyard, I have like full size mullet. There's a ton of them back there. Some of them are so big they look like they're freaking carp. That size mullet. So should I be throwing like an 8-inch bait for them, or like what should I be doing there?
I would say you definitely want to try. You want to, if you see a certain bait in an area, with the absence of any other knowledge, you should try running that size bait and see if it gets bit. But a lot of times falling into that being 100%, you know, there's mullet here, they're eating mullet, or the big ones are definitely only going to eat the big mullet. You know, that's not necessarily the case. I've been in plenty of scenarios during the mullet run. I've talked about this with a bunch of other people who have had the same thing, where I kept a snook because it was snook season, filleted it, looked in its belly, and it didn't have a single mullet in its belly. Only crabs, or only, you know, little hard shell catfish that run through the river sometimes. And it's a old head redfish thing, that mullet run is one of the best times to run shrimp and crabs, because those redfish follow that mullet pack around. That mullet pack's turning bottom up. What's coming off the bottom? A free meal that doesn't have a spine that might jab them in the throat when they try to eat it, or they might burn more calories than it takes to catch it. So it's you got to think in the grand scale, everything that's there, and what is going to be the most opportunistic thing for that fish to eat to get calories, you know, safer and more efficiently than something else. If that's a giant mullet, that's a giant mullet, but a lot of times that might be a river shrimp, or a little baby blue crab, or, you know, a little school of mahara, a little invasive hard shell catfish that's taking over areas, or a goby up in the Great Lakes, which we make a goby bait. Shout out Northerners.
Yeah, go buy some of those, guys. Do you have anybody getting them up there and using them?
Yeah, we had a quick run go up to a shop up there that did great. We actually call it the little croaker on our website. It's a hammer bait here in the river, but it works great up there anywhere you got gobies.
So how do you work that bait? Are you just lightly jigging it off the bottom and slowly retrieving it?
Exactly like you would picture that goby or croaker on its belly, and then quick little scoots or bouncing off bottom, but on bottom. And it's not, the croaker and the little croaker have a paddle on the tail, but they're not traditional paddle tails where you need motion for it to create its own motion and vibration. They just kind of move when they're in the water. So it's the slower you can go and the tighter to bottom, the better with that bait.
And when do you throw the eel baits versus the paddle tails? Because the eel baits look sick, and everybody up in the Northeast listening, you need to check out these eel baits, because I guarantee you they will crush stripers. So yeah, check those out for sure. But yeah, when do you decide to, you know, throw that bait versus like the paddle tail or something else?
So the eel for me is one of my favorites, because certainly when there's eels around, it's a great time to throw an eel. That's secret, but definitely want to do that. But the secret for me with that bait is that it's just constant motion. So if I know that there's some form of profile, say a medium-sized mullet in the river, and the fish are in a place where I can't target them effectively with a paddle tail or even with a live mullet, a bait like that, you can drift through the zone. You can we call back sweep, or come back up current with it. And you're not going to either spook the fish or the bait away from it because of the vibration, or it's not going to get pulled out of the zone or have any of those issues. And it's just going to have that constant motion that you're looking for. Same thing when I'm offshore fishing. We'll go hit some of these structure points that are, say, 60 to 100, 120 feet bottom fishing, which I've done my whole life and only recently started doing this. It's tough to present over and over at that depth with trigger fish, puffer fish. I mean, there's a million little toothy crits on that bottom. The second they hit your live bait or your paddle tail or whatever, it's spinning, it's dorking out, or it's gone, or whatever it is. It's not natural. It's not looking good. The secret with an eel, when it takes a bite out of an eel, more motion. It's still an eel, just going to move more,
because it looks like it's dying now, right?
Well, and if you remove a little bit of
bit in half, right? You got to make it.
It's going to look that way, but think about it. Less plastic's going to move more freely. Right. So you take a little bit of plastic away, it's going to move a little bit more. And in points where we were getting not even a full sweep on bottom with a live bait or with a paddle tail, the eel I'd get 6 or 7 before it was so chewed I'd have to switch to something else.
Wow.
So that's one of
quality right there.
We are putting the best quality we can in. I can't say otherwise, but it's just more of a thought process and how to use things the right way. When do I put something where? I'm not trying to beat myself up, to tap myself on the back and say, hey man, I didn't use a live bait today. I used the artificial, or I threw fly. I'm the best of. It's not about that. It's about understanding, what do I want to target and what's the most effective and efficient way for me to do that. And most times now we're finding answers in our lineup that are the most efficient way that we can do it, and the most fun, because it's about having fun, this whole thing.
Absolutely. There's something I wanted to ask you about shadow line tactics, obviously at night. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that you're obviously very familiar with all the species down here of snook and tarpon and whatnot, but I think it's also something that definitely could translate to the guys up north.
Absolutely.
Who fish the shadow lines for stripers. So do you have any specific tactics or baits that you throw specifically at the shadow line, colors that you work? Yeah, like colors you would work the shadow line with, like,
mm-hmm.
And
I'm not going to tell you. No,
hey, come on, man. No, it's a similar thing too.
Shadow lines are kind of one of the, it's like the only reason I fish at night, I feel like. I mean, obviously you get less pressure from certain things, and fish feed, in certain patterns at night, but really, truly the secret of a shadow line is now you've got structure where you otherwise didn't have structure. And that's the way that I approach it, is no different than maybe where a fish would be behind a piling or something in the daytime, behind a rock as an ambush point.
I've never thought of the shadow line as structure like that before.
Yeah,
that's really cool to put it in that perspective.
I think for me, it comes from being a scuba diver. I've spent probably considerably more hours in the water still than fishing. I feel like growing up in the Key, and that's my family's background. You kind of asked about the fishing, and my dad loves fishing. We love fishing. My dad's a diver. He's a hardcore diver. Like he's a bad dude. Him and his buddies, man. Like I grew up around savages. So from the earliest that mom would agree, I was in the water diving the bridges in the Keys for lobster and fun, basically.
And how early did mom agree to that?
I think that we know of 6 years old was when I got in, but really like I was closer to 10, 12 before I was like in the full, we call it the Swift. Like it'll get up to 3-4 knot current. You can't swim against it. You're basically rock climbing on bottom. That was then. But so spending all that time there, even in the daytime, those shadow lines, it literally is like a wall. It's a penetrable wall. You swim up from the light side towards the dark, and it looks like somebody painted a gray wall in front of you. And
so I'm a certified night diver. I've got my equipment specialist, some advanced diver, all that. I've done some sick night dives, but the idea of swimming into the shadow line sounds so fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Yeah. I've been
as my friend Dennis would say, shout out to Dennis, sometimes you stare into the abyss and the abyss stares right back.
Every single time. I've been up maybe 18 inches to 2 feet away from the shadow line and had a 150-pound tarpon swim out into the light and right back into the dark right in front of you. Half the time when you come through that damn thing, there's a Goliath grouper sitting on the pole waiting for you.
It's like, hey there.
Oh yeah, like 300-400 pounders.
He's like, do you got some food for me?
More like, get out of here, you're gonna be my food.
He's like eyeing you up. He's like, I wonder if I could fucking swallow that dude alive. Like,
I swear everything in there thought that about me when I was a kid, dude. It felt that way.
Oh yeah, no, oh my God. I totally forgot that this was at the age of like 6 to 12.
Oh yeah.
So you looked like bait.
I was a little baby man.
Yeah. You looked like a big like amberjack or something to him.
Yeah. Oh, that's not to mention the resident 15-foot hammerhead.
Oh, the resident 15-foot hammerhead. What's his name?
Or the seasonal 20-footer.
Oh, the seasonal 20-footer. Casually. That thing probably has a 4-foot dorsal fin, right? A 20-foot hammerhead.
Like probably 7 or 8 foot. They're tall on a hammerhead.
8-foot dorsal fin.
Giant. There's one off here, crazy. Off of Jensen, they call Anchor.
And guys have caught him and released him?
I don't think anybody's caught it. It's just so big you see it from the beach. The lifeguards are the ones that named it.
Wow.
Dewey almost got part of its feeding frenzy one day.
Oh my God.
full
when
tail over his head.
When he was out there surfing?
Yeah, we were both surfing. I was like 20 feet away, and I looked, and from my angle, the tail was over his head while it ate something jacker.
A 20-foot hammerhead tail over his head.
I think that one's like 14 feet.
Damn, that's still crazy.
Yeah, too big.
So this area, Jensen Beach, like there's some pretty good shark fishing here, right? Like
it's insane. I mean, I've hooked 200-pound bull sharks in the river here.
Jesus.
When I didn't want to, but
from
them to giant hammerheads to
sawfish,
everything in between. Yeah. There's one of my buddies caught one that was like, he said it was bigger than their dinghy they were fishing. Or not dinghy, but when you bring something from like North Carolina down here, John boat. That's what you call it. Yeah, that thing. Yeah, it was like a couple few feet bigger than their John boat.
What did it take?
A jig.
It took a jig.
Yeah, they had put some Procure on a jig.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Crazy.
Sawfish on the jig.
Yep. I've seen a couple on my buddy got
like
one on a swim bait.
That'll ruin you. What do you do after stuff like that?
Oh, just accept it. Yeah, you did it. Check that one off. It's not happening again.
Now we got to get a great white from the John boat.
That's the same thing when you get a sheep's head on a dry fly.
Yeah, no. Check that box.
That one's done.
For sure. And it's never happening again, most likely.
Not for me.
Oh, man. So, the shadow line tactics. So, swimming into the shadow line, like as a diver, you like learned more about the shadow line. It was like a hands-on experience of like seeing what actually goes on down there in that shadow line.
Yeah, it puts you in the mind of a bait fish.
That's crazy.
And so that, for me, that's how I view it. And whether it's up top or on the bottom, you have this point that is a full hide. So on one side, the fish can see, and on the other side, they can't. And now, when you think about it that way,
wait. What do you mean?
So if I'm in the dark,
yeah,
looking to the light,
yeah,
then there is still a gradient, but you can see. And when something goes from light to dark, the eyes have to adjust. So for that split second, you're blind. So there's twofold on how you can attack a shadow line depending on what size bait and what they're doing. Maybe it's big enough bait that they're not getting flushed through the shadow line. They can exist on one side or the other. So I'm going to try to run my bait in a similar fashion and pull that fish from dark to light, or move from light to dark and get that fish to then think I'm blind for a second and attack. Or when things are flushing, now it's a lot simpler. Just it's a small enough bait. I'll run a eel, a shrino, or whatever I need to through there, and it's a full feeding frenzy at that point. Usually when you're on a small bait feed with something like that, it is almost 1-for-1. When you hit the zone, they eat. It's the bait's overpowered and blind and small enough that it doesn't pose a big threat unless you're not doing a very good job of hiding it. They're going to eat it. So it just gives you a way of simplifying things and knowing how to attack those fish. And in terms of colors, up top, light so they can see it. On the bottom, depends. It always sort of depends. They might want something that they can't find easily because everything's hard to find. So you look ridiculous if you're running a white bait on the bottom in the middle of stuff that's not that way. You're probably going to catch the dumber fish than the smart one. Versus looking like something that's trying to hide but doing a bad job of it. That's how I like to picture a lot of the colors I'll run on bottom. Looks like a mullet that's trying to hide the best it can. It just is not doing a good job. Those are the colors that I love for that. Up top, though, white. We have alien chartreuse and purple smoke, which incorporate highlight. Highlight's a good thing to use as the watercolor turns tannic. It almost glows. So you get this extra pop whether it's on the dark or the light side. And when it's up against structure, it almost provides a camo color shift. Sometimes I want something shiny. Sometimes I want something dull. A lot of it depends on other lighting, the moon, the spot, whether it's, super lit or it's super dark. It's kind of figuring that portion out, and then you can know what subset of colors to use. I'm looking for where the fish are, so I know where to target them. And then all the rest of my thought process is about what's happening in the water. How's the water moving, and what's in the water? How is it moving with respect to that? To try to figure out my pattern on how things are going. And from there, I'm trying to be the smallest thing possible too, by the way. Like big baits are dangerous. You know?
So let's talk about the Shrino a little bit, because I feel like that's probably, I don't know, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's one of your most popular baits. Like I see guys catching giant snook on them like all the time.
It's
I caught my first tarpon on one in the backyard. So
that's right. Yeah, it's well, first let's say if we're going to do some shout outs, Adam Martin's idea. Adam's a buddy here in town, hammer fisherman. He probably puts
shout out to Adam.
He probably puts more thought into fishing than anybody I know. But it was a evolution of just the split tail concept as like a minnow bait. But unlike a lot of them, we wanted it to be towards our profile and provide a little bit more in terms of action, subtle action, but action. So it's a just under 3-inch split tail. It's called the Shrino because we couldn't figure out if the fish were eating shrimp or minnows. They were both in the river, but no matter what, we were getting bit. So Robbo said it must be a Shrino. So that was how the Shrino was born. It is the most versatile thing we've got. Like it genuinely, I smile when I think about fishing it because I've fished it so many ways. I've caught my biggest snook I've ever caught, or I'll say leadered. It ended up being donated to a bull shark. Unfortunately, I was in a kayak too. That was crazy. But I mean, at that, I've caught a near 100 pounds harping on it again as a gummy fly. Now in the Keys, my whole life, when we were diving, you dive, and we called them fish dives. You dive and then you put in a bag of chum and then you fish, and now you got fish and lobster. Why not? We stopped bringing chum 2 years ago. We don't bring shrimp, chum, any of that. We just bring Shrinos. We get out of the water after a dive, and if it's fishy, we just bounce Shrinos, and usually we catch some snapper. It's a game changer for us.
So would you say that's your most popular one, biggest seller?
Yeah, I would say that and the Little Biscuit probably are the most consistent. The Little Biscuit's a 3-inch paddle tail that does really well too. But the Shrino, yeah, it doesn't necessarily get as much notice for what it is as a 3-inch paddle tail is like everybody knows what a 3-inch paddle tail is.
Right.
Some people look at a split tail and don't really know what it is or how to use it. So that I would say that limits it some. But yeah, no, once you get into the subset of people who can look at it and understand the bait, it's by far the best seller for sure.
Right.
I think for good reason.
Yeah, I think it would work well when they're on the sand eels up there in the Northeast. When the stripers are on the sand eels, the eel would work. And I think when they're on the peanut bunker, like the peanut bunker are pretty much the same size as the Shrino. So
it'll get hammered.
Especially if they use that BFC color.
Oh yeah,
it looks like a little peanut bunker. It would definitely work
for sure.
Yeah, no, I need to get up there and put these lures some more use. I didn't have enough time last time I was up, but
I think bouncing those things in areas where you got some of the blackfish and some of the other stuff might do a lot better than people realize. You just don't
throw that Shrino on a blackfish jig, see what happens.
That's what I'm saying. We've been talking about putting them on chicken rigs to take them out to some of our deep water spots, and I know it'll do amazing.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Definitely.
Oh, dude, big mahi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On the Shrino. Dude, this thing catches everything.
It was good for
30,
Florida.
40-pound fish on a Shrino.
Oh yeah.
That is amazing.
Oh yeah. No, they won't even think. That thing, you don't even have to do anything. Just toss it out there and let it set. It'll get smoked.
The profile is so small. It's like they're not even spooked by anything. They're just like, oh, that's definitely a bait fish. I'm eating that for fucking sure.
And you're not wasting 10 minutes trying to get cut bait out there. So now it's half aware of the boat. That thing is wet right away. Bam. She gone.
Let's talk about some PB snook, PB tarpon.
PB snook is pretty easy if we can count the one that got eaten by the shark. How does that sound?
We can count it.
All right. That's my PB.
So tell that story.
That was fly fishing in my kayak in the big water. And we had been on a bite for a while. We were sight fishing this one spot, and there were these big shadows that came through, and every night we would debate like snook or tarpon, because they were like 4 foot. And we never hooked one until, of course, I was by myself in the most improbable scenario and made probably the cast of my life, backhanded into the wind, and somehow got the thing to eat, watched it eat, fought all over the place, chased, it was under the kayak doing laps, and finally beat this thing, and it comes up to the surface, and it was giant. It was like a good 47, 48 inch fish. And right as it came, like kind of pinwheeling sideways on the surface, and I kind of looked back, because now I don't know, I was way away from where I started. So I was like trying to figure out, how I can revive this thing and what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go. And like right as I looked back, it was like 12 feet of white water, just giant. Hook transfer to the shark. Shark made 2 giant runs like to the end of my backing before, and I'm trying to break it off, like grabbing spool, digging it into my hip, tip right at the thing, trying to break. And then it finally busted me off. So it was a bummer. I was distraught because just seeing that beautiful of a fish get eaten was heartbreaking. But, I did catch the biggest snook and the biggest shark. I tippeted the shark, so.
That's crazy.
One cast.
That's awesome. Do you think, because I've heard a lot about this on the internet lately, people saying that the shark problem has gotten worse in terms of how many fish are getting sharked on charter boats and by wreck guys, Do you think it's a problem that's increasing, or what's your take on that?
I think that we're doing a pretty poor job of training them if we don't want that to happen. We're multiple generations into teaching sharks specifically that humans equal food. Not necessarily to eat humans, but we're chumming them to get in the water and dive with them. We're chumming them to bring them off of wrecks and shoot cobia off of them. We're fishing the crap out of the same areas they're going to be in. I can tell you for facts that as a free diver, where I dive, because it's not fished that way, numbers are way down. I'd say in the 5 to 10% of what they were when I was a kid in terms of large predators, sharks and barracuda. And
So you're saying the numbers are down?
In my experience, where
Really?
I spend time in the water, the overall numbers are down. I would say that the numbers of them where people are fishing heavily, and which also up in this area, they do some free diving and tank diving in these same areas. The numbers, that's where they're concentrated. I don't think that I think the overall numbers in the ocean are way down personally, but
You think that has to do with a lot of the shark finning that goes on overseas?
I doubt that helps. It seems pretty terrible to me, but you look at everything, the pressure with fishing, water quality, reef quality, like go down the list. There's pressure from every angle on a large predator. It's only simple science that's going to make numbers dwindle.
Do you think once a shark attacks a human and tastes human blood that it gains an affinity for it and will go after them again?
I don't know. I've heard that we taste like crap.
Well, I don't know. I heard that, when a grizzly eats a man or kills a human, that they become a man eater for the rest of their days.
I don't know. I've heard plenty of stories from different stuff, but that's probably above my pay grade, I'd say.
The craziest shark attack I think ever caught on camera just came out. I think it was over the summer, maybe. Did you see that one in the Mediterranean?
Yeah, that was horrible.
It was like one of the, I can't even believe that footage was like allowed out and it's still like circulating. That footage really fucked with me. Like I made me like, I already am scared of sharks because I feel like I've been responsible for killing so many fish and organizing charter trips, and I'm responsible for a lot of dead fish. So I feel like the fish gods, if they could, they would get me and they would send a shark to do it. So I don't go into the water that much anymore. But after seeing that one, the kid is screaming, "Papa, Papa," and his dad's on the beach. It was just absolutely insane. And they say the tiger shark will, and the bull shark too. But I think specifically the tiger shark has no sense of taste. It can't discern like what tastes good and what doesn't. And what they do is they actually will take the person's limbs before they go in for the kill. So when you see that video and that kid is kicking and his head's above water and you're wondering why his arms aren't, it's because the tiger already took both his arms. And then it comes over the top and finishes him, and it bit his fucking head off. It is just absolutely crazy. So yeah, and then
That'll mess with you.
The other fucked up part of that was that they went out and they netted the shark, and they like beat it to death like with a bat, and then I mean, the shark is just being a shark. Like, you got to understand, you're going into their territory. Anytime you go, up to 3 feet of water, that's it. They could be there.
I think there's a lot of negative that can come from how distilled of a society we in particular live in these days. We being especially people here in the United States. And as you get into more and more populated area, I mean, there's just, everything is set up for you. Like, you're it. There ain't nothing that's supposed to mess with you at all. Or that's what the police are for. Or go down the list. That's not the real world. That's not the ocean, I should say. The real world is what the real world is now. But the ocean is metal. It's real. Everything in the ocean is trying to survive by potentially killing and eating everything in the ocean.
And nature has no conscience or ill will. So
no,
it just is what it is.
Well, and where's the conscience? Who's more important there? Is that more, what's better, that, versus the stuff that you have to take its life in order to sustain yourself? It's all life trying to, stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even the most inanimate things you'd picture in the ocean that are living, corals, they do nothing, right? I used to grow coral. Those things are gnarly. You should see them at night, dude. They might have like 12, 18-inch sweeper tentacles killing everything around it in the tank. Just murder, carnage. But it looks like kind of nothing, and it's not on a grand scale. It's not an orca eating a shark, and just for its liver and letting the thing float away.
Yeah, what's up with that? What's going on in South Africa right now?
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think is your take on that?
I bet livers are very tasty. Very tasty.
High in protein.
Something,
dude. But I mean, they're like surgically removing them from them. It's like it's not even like a giant bite wound or anything. It's like,
I wish my surgeons were that good.
Honestly, dude, what if it's aliens taking great white shark livers for their protein?
Oh, man, we're going down a new rabbit hole.
And blaming it on the orcas.
I've heard some theories lately.
Really? What have you heard lately?
Well, just the whole they're here sort of stuff, but more so like we just can't see them.
Oh shit!
I think it's something like it's in like the 2 to 5% of the visit. Like, we can see like 2 to 5% of what's actually reality. I forget what the number is. I'm butchering it, I'm sure, but we can only see a very limited like spectrum of what's existent. So
right, and they probably,
or you can go to the dimensions. How many? There's like 12 measurable dimensions.
Is that what there is?
Or maybe more. I don't know.
And how many do we have access to? One.
I'm trying to get to the 12th. Just got to get inverted. Yeah, we have access to 3, right?
3?
Don't we see 3D?
I don't even know, dude. I thought we were just in this one bullshit dimension that we're stuck in.
There's 4. Was 4 time? I can't. We're getting way too scientific. I'm a bait maker, man.
I'm just a fisherman.
I heat up plastic and I pour it. Sometimes lead.
I hit record and talk about fishing.
And we don't even know the damage the fumes have done.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're talking about fucking aliens. Right?
It could get interesting.
Oh man, there's a lot of rabbit holes to go down there. But man, what do you think is like? What makes you happiest about making baits? Like, what is, like when you see somebody catch one for the first time on one of your baits, like, is that, I mean, that's got to be, as my friend Ray Rocher would say, those are the types of things that don't fit in your wallet, Yeah,
I've had some experiences like that. I would say, honestly, some of the ones that really are the most rewarding are just when I get like a message or a story from someone that I don't even know. And sometimes it's someone I'll only interact with once, but telling me about, whether it was the first fish they caught of a species or a PB, or the best are when it's a story about time spent with their dad or their kid or their friend. Just knowing that I got to help create a unique experience for them and something that they're going to, remember, hang on to, maybe even throw that bait up on the wall to remember it by, like that. To me, that's just insane that I can even have that reach.
It's like a form of alchemy in a way.
I'm a wizard.
I'm an alchemist. That's why we get along. So let's talk a little bit about, and you guys will see this on the YouTubes, but let's talk a little bit about this machine that's behind us right now and what it does and how it has made you totally level up your bait making game.
Yeah, so I recently got a CNC router, which is like there's two types. There's mills and routers. The router is a little less powerful, but it'll cut aluminum, and the point behind it is the biggest hurdle for a lot of bait makers is getting molds made, being able to make their visions actually become a reality. And it's insanely expensive. It's difficult. I understand why. So I just kind of decided to eliminate the middleman, and we've got now well, I guess it's not in the shop. I can't say that anymore. I moved my dining room table and we put it in my dining room, and now we're cutting all of our own head molds. And then we've always had the 3D printing capability. That's how we do our masters in order to make our top pour molds. So it's just going to open up a lot more opportunity, make heads, injection baits, and to take kind of the final step in a few new directions with offshore stuff that I really want to accomplish.
What's your goal for the offshore game?
We have quite a few concepts that are ready. They apply perfectly. So the first one is to take some of these paddle tails over to that side, but to make them a lot more useful. When I watch guys gear up for whether it's a tournament, leg in the islands, whatever it is, they're packing hundreds of all these different things. Where number one, I think the dredge sardine we're going to release is going to really surprise people. It's going to really be a huge step up from the common dredge shad. But the second thing is it's going to be multi-use, where you can either rig it on a specific head to go on an umbrella rig to be, a dredge bait, or you can rig that same thing on one of our 10-0 hooks as a pitch bait for tuna, or, whatever you want to pitch at. I think doing a couple things with that, finishing out some of the lineup so it's the full use is available to people. And then one of my good friends owns Firetails, and we've been working on quite a few other ideas on how to make his baits reach their top potential, and also some collaboration stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Sounds like it's going to be a game changer.
I mean, I hope it changes somebody's game for the positive, for sure.
If you could break into that, the offshore too, it's like,
it's a lot bigger market. There's a lot more money going into that than into inshore fishing, for sure.
And I've seen this prototype in the shop back there, and this is something that guys are definitely going to be able to use for stripers in the Northeast too, for trolling.
Absolutely.
Because it's similar to the Mojo bait that they use up there. They call them Mojos. It's like they run a high-low trolling thing with one up here and one down here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't wait for that to come out and for you guys to see that, because it is definitely going to be killer for sure.
Yeah, I think that between that and some of the baits that was developed off of, the Ocho and the Solid 7, and then the eel, once I have everything dialed in with all the heads, I think people are going to really enjoy them. They're going to find a lot of success with them.
So you're making your own heads right now. So how much time are you putting into like tweaking them? Like, have you settled on like a specific one that you're going to run with now and mass produce, or are you constantly working with the 3D printer and like trying to tweak them? Like,
it's all more of an evolution than of a starting point and a destination. And I definitely believe that every one of these projects sort of picks its own finish line. Some of them, you mentioned the crab. The crab has been a prototype for more than 2 years, I'm pretty sure. Whereas the Solid 7, was Adam's idea, and I finished a version in, I think, 36 hours, and we never changed it again. It just, you kind of get there when you get there. So yeah, it's more so that we're kind of just pushing everything forward. In terms of what's coming first, we wanted to simplify everything while providing more options than what are out there. Like, there's all these constant debates on jig heads and what's the best bait keeper. Should it be a screw lock? Should it be this or that? Should super glue be required or not? I don't really care to debate. I'm just going to give everybody everything. So for me, a round head pulls the best. It bounces the best. It's simple. It achieves every goal. So we're gonna have a ball head where we're adding eyeballs. None of them seem to have that, so I'm gonna go that extra mile. We're gonna add eyeballs, and then we've got 2 different style bait keepers. One of them holds in great, but it's a traditional lead style bait keeper. If you were gonna cast it a million times, you'd throw a little super glue. I'm not a huge screw lock proponent, but I hear everybody, and I know the scenarios I want them. So we're waiting on the screw locks. They're in the mail. We're going to have a screw lock version available at the exact same time. So
why aren't you a screw lock? Like, why aren't you a fan of that?
Number one, even if you're really good at it, sometimes when you're trying to get that body to clear in underneath the hook, you catch the barb and slice it. Now you've already taken one nip out of your bait. Now it just takes a tail whack and it might come off. It's also harder to get it to rig up right. It just kind of is, at least for me. I'm don't take that to be everything, but there's that aspect. But to me, the biggest one is that I'm personally trying to chase things that pull pretty darn hard. I'm not trying to catch 25 dinks or something and put a hook in every single fish in the ocean. If I could get one tug out there that's really good, boom, mission accomplished. If you do that with a screw lock, the screw lock is much more likely to fail or ruin my plastic when the plastic gets ripped off. Whereas that lead, it's going to hold well enough for a cast, but a big fish pulls, it's going to let the bait slip. The lead's going to be fine. I can beat that head to death, and I know it's still going to work. Whereas if I catch one, 25, 30-pound snook or one 50-plus pound tarpon on a screw lock, it might mangle it to where now I don't have any kind of bait keeper whatsoever. And now I got to glue it direct to the head, or I just got a worthless head. I mean, I can't picture the last head that I beat up so much that I had to retire it with a lead bait keeper. I either snag them or I don't. They stick around.
Yeah. What is the advantage of using the loop knot for tying it to the swim baits?
Well, I would say the difference than the advantage is the difference is more motion. That is an advantage a lot of times, but it's, I would say, a trap to just assume that it's 100%. Yes, this is definitely the best knot for every single bait ever. We run certain baits with a clinch knot or surgeons or whatever still. But I do, I'll tie a loop knot most of the time. Just whatever I'm going to use is going to provide the correct action, which is usually more, and it's not going to lead the bait. Where sometimes that loop knot can pull a weird way with a light bait, or maybe I don't want something to be able to turn as much. But yeah, usually just that simple loop has been everybody's forever.
So you do a lot of fishing from shore. I know you have a boat and you go out with that when you can, when weather allows, but have you ever had any experiences fishing from shore that got a little sketchy, or maybe somebody, I feel like there's a lot of people down here with boats that don't respect shore fishermen, and I'm sure that that's just across the board. I mean, that happens in the Northeast too, but has there ever been anything, that you had to deal with while you're out there at night alone fishing where something got sketchy?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I've had it both ways. I've had aggressive people on bridges throw lead at me when I'm on a boat, just because, in their words, just because we like to mess with people that are out fishing on their boat.
How'd you respond to that one?
Just prayed that they didn't hit me with that 2-ounce jig he was slinging at my head, and just
for their sake, right?
Tried to act tough. Yeah, well, it wouldn't have been good for anybody. I heard that something ended up happening afterwards, and yeah, police got involved, and it wasn't good for anybody.
Somebody might have drowned. We don't know.
Well, nobody drowned. I know that. And I know that the funny part is the police looked at both of the groups and said, none of you are from here. All of you need to go home right now. And that's generally the case. Yeah, I haven't had many. I've had a couple, but I haven't had many real run-ins with a local person. We're all just trying to get out and catch a fish before work. Or
what
after
about
work.
that one dude on the boat that totally fucked you up that night, and he was like trolling over your shit like he could have been anywhere?
He's also not from here. That was the perfect example though. That story could easily be about, what a jerk he was, or maybe that I was from his angle. I don't know. I wasn't in his shoes, but really to me, what happened is you see two people trying to do the same thing, get out, get away, deal with their issues, on the water in a positive way, where bad incidents that happened separately and then bumped us together made friction. And, we shook hands. We ended up pulling back from, I'm going to come over there and drown you, to, my name is this and your name's that, and shake hands. And, we live in the same area right now. Let's respectfully.
We're both trying to catch fish. We're both trying to,
Yeah, let's not do this again.
Yeah.
That's sort of where we coached it to. And there's
where you coach it to, I'm sure.
Hey, it's we. It's always we. I say that because when it turns out bad, I'm still gonna say we.
The royal we, dude. Come on.
Well, I think sometimes like it might sound like I'm being maybe humble or something, dude. I'm protecting the downside, bro. When we go fishing and you catch and I don't, I'm still saying we.
I got you.
when I catch them and you don't, I'm gonna say we because we always catch that way, bro.
I hear you.
We can always get something.
We could
done.
always get something.
Yeah.
Shout out to my buddy Jeff up north. Me and him could always get something done. We would enter the pools together, and we would always agree to split the pool because one of us would always win it. So
that's the way.
And honestly, most of the times it was Jeff. Shout out to Jeff again, man. I miss you, bro. But
I think if we could all sort of take this attitude and realize that, we are all in the same harbor and we're all waiting on the same tide, and we could all just sort of let that lift everybody, just in any sense you can. I don't know, man. I think that's a positive. I certainly was there for every negative that happened in my life, so I'd love to point all the fingers, but I'm the common.
One of the toughest things you mentioned to me that you've been through was you had a really bad accident where, I'll let you tell it, but from what you told me, it was just a really bad accident, freak accident that happened that, totally, for lack of a better word, fucked you up, right? It was bad.
Yeah, no, I had a what I'd call a hard life reset at a point. After I came home from Panama, I was seeing a girl. And my dog is, hands down, the coolest dog in the world. We can all agree on that.
Shout out to Chip.
Chip is a legend. And I was ready to come back. I'd been away for like almost 3 years straight and wanted to get back. So I got I call it a farm. It was 2.5 acres. Like half of it was reasonably taken care of. The other half was just forest and a pond. And when I came back, I cleaned it up and put a lot of time into that. And then I was bringing home kind of all my favorite fruit trees and trees from my travels to sort of bring that back home with me and focus on my work at home and all that sort of fun stuff. And was doing a lot of videography work. And I had been cleaning, like the final sort of cleanup, a bunch of stuff, and was doing burns like once a week, constantly burning just leaf debris and limbs, whatever. And we had like 2 months of wind one winter. It was like, it was at least 8 weeks straight. I couldn't burn anything. And then I got home from work one day. I had like a 12-foot long by like 4 or 5 foot high by like 6 foot wide burn pile waiting. And then the weather was good enough and it was, relatively dried out. There was no wind. I was like, all right, well, I'll start a burn, go in, make myself a cocktail. I'd already worked all day and, water all my plants while I keep an eye on the fire. Just the normal gig. Went out. I had stopped using lighter fluid I don't know, a month or two before, it was just so expensive. Like I was spending like $20 every time to do it. So being an idiot, I started using gasoline. You know, I got all kinds of different tools out there. So I would soak the whole pile down, leave, water all my plants, do whatever, give it a half hour for the fumes to go away. And then I'd go light the fire. This time I don't remember from the time I doused it. I know I remember putting a lot on it and walked away. And apparently I didn't even walk all the way to the shed based on where the gas can was. I went back and I lit the fire. And because it was so calm and how much I had put and how big it basically created a bomb. So I don't remember any of this, but I could show you how the scars line up, how I kind of reached down, lit the fire. It blew me backwards. I came to my own screams as I was rolling, and they tell you a lot of things that you think you might not need. Stop, drop, and roll. That's real. That shit is real. So I came to already rolling, opened my eyes, pure white, just covered in fire. I remember counting 7 rolls from that point to where I was now like all the way to the edge of my gate of my property. At that point, it's, I could tell I was out. So I stood up and was cooked, like looked differently. My skin, my like fascia, different shaped, like different human. Oh, I was only wearing baggies, board shorts, like a bathing suit, flip flops, backwards hat. So I remember my first thought was, did I really just do that? Did that really happen? And the second thought, I always carried a pistol, was, can I survive this? Third thought was, fuck that. Yeah, I can. So I unfortunately, I didn't have my phone. I had to walk like 100 yards into the house, find my phone, and nothing would work on it. It wouldn't recognize fingerprints, or my palms were blown off. Like when I looked at my hands, you could see just like skin curled up and just like a movie scene, red, just meat under it. But got the ambulance out, which was a whole ordeal. I lived way down a dirt road too. Then they didn't know what a cattle gate was, so I couldn't get in the cattle gate. I got like 10 feet off the porch, and the guy's like, "Don't sit back down. We'll figure it out." I was like, "I don't want you fucking up my gate too." But it was a joke. I sat back down. But yeah, they made it about halfway down the road and then stopped to fill me up with morphine, and asked me what I needed to tell anybody, and told me they were putting me out because if I had actually inhaled any of the fire, that was their concern at that point. I was cooked, but that's survivable. But if I had actually breathed in any of the fire, I was done. So they put me out, tell my family and my girl I love them and good to go. Tell them I'll see them soon. I'm good. I didn't really believe it, but I figured at least, if they thought I was happy. But they put me out, threw me in a helicopter and flew me to Orlando. And then I spent the next 30 days in hell in Orlando, which was 10 times the experience of anything else. Just daily basis, being debrided. And I ended up with 39.6% of my body was second and third degree burns. So over 3 surgeries, had like 13 or 14 skin grafts and the whole gambit. It took like 18 months to get fully healed up. But I do have to say, part of it was unfortunate where it's unfortunate what happened, but I'm an idiot. So it happened. It was unfortunate to end up in a non-burn unit because it wasn't there. That said, I ended up with the best nurse in the world. Joey Lavelle was like, literally wake up in the morning. Who's on my shift today? Who's doing my burns? Joey? Cool. We got it. We're good to go. Like, he was that solid. Straight up angel, bro.
You still talk to him?
We keep up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I'm not a big talker, but we keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a legend. He's still there, still killing it. Just had a baby. I think he just had a second baby.
Still killing it might not be the phrase, but
yeah, whatever, bro. You got to laugh in the face of it all.
I know. Oh my God. So, were there a lot of people that supported you during this time? Were there some people that let you down? I mean, What was that recovery process like? I mean,
it's heavy.
That must have been like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you can. The screwed up thing is like when something at that level happens, you can totally imagine all of it. It's exactly what you would imagine. In fact, like it's real. Picture all of it, and that's what it is. You know, it's searing pain everywhere. It's literally every single day. They call it collagen. It's like basically fat and stuff that's forming on top of it. They scrub until it's gone, and then they cover it back up, and then you do it again tomorrow.
And I'm sure they have you on like morphine and stuff, but you got to be feeling some of this, because if they give you X amount of morphine, then they need to give you more, and eventually you stop feeling it. So it's like you had to be feeling.
So in my experience, the difference between a 2nd degree and a 3rd degree burn is that there's not enough painkiller in the world for them to keep debriding that 3rd degree burn for it to heal. There became a point where, I'm allergic to Dilaudid, so I couldn't have Dilaudid. So we were on a pain management system where it was morphine and OxyContin and Percocet and Vicodin, I think, maxed out. Most you can possibly have on a constant schedule. And if you didn't stay ahead of the pain, it was like, when I say that I danced with the devil, like I went to dark places. That's the only way I got through it. Like when that came on, all right, here it comes. Let's deal with it. Let's go there. Wherever that is for you, you're going to find that fucking place and you're going to go there.
Did you pray at all?
I prayed. I had a cleaning lady who liked to pray with me. I felt ultimate responsibility for everything. I felt as though I fully got myself there, and I was going to need to be the one to get myself out.
So you immediately accepted the blame on yourself. It feels like you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I instantly. There was no how did this or why did this, or there was why am I alive sometimes.
I mean, this is also, guys, this is a testament to Brett's character. I mean, this guy is a real stand-up dude and fucking tough as nails, obviously, as you could tell. But
I appreciate that, like, deeply.
I mean, dude, that's your first thought coming out of that is like, this is all my fault. Like, I don't know if I came out of that, I would have been thinking like, fucking did somebody because I don't know. I don't know if that would have been my first thought, dude. I might have been like, I might have felt like the victim for a while sitting there. Like, I don't know what I would have felt like because I didn't experience it. But
yeah, I like to have a lot of faith in what other people are capable of.
Right.
You know,
especially when it comes to survival.
Absolutely.
And the will to survive. From
the second it happened, it was so real, so intimate, pervasive. That was my life now. That was it.
Just the idea of like you opening your eyes and seeing white because there was flames over your eyes. Like that's
it. At this point in my life, it's wild to think about, without a doubt. To think about how just charred, like, my mom still gets really emotional talking about what I looked like when she saw me. She thought I was going to lose my ears, my nose, everything. I was charred.
And guys, like when Brett first told me the story when we were just chilling, I couldn't even believe it because he looks like he looks totally fine. So like I was like, what do you mean 3rd degree burns? Like,
yeah.
So
I was wrapped up like a gordita.
She must be so grateful that, I mean, you came in on the other end looking like it never even happened, right? I mean,
I can certainly show you all the scars, and there's certainly, they exist mentally and physically, and I still have pain to this day, but I came out better for it. You know, it's such a cliche, but I really, truly, I'm not thankful necessarily to have that had happened to me, and the sacrifices that had to be made. And you mentioned there were people in my life that the beginning that weren't there at the end. But I'm grateful for who I am. I wouldn't, and I'm sitting here talking with you about a lure company that wouldn't exist before this. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that I would not have had the toughness, the self-confidence, and just the ability to deal with looking at a short term that doesn't have a whole lot of hope. Like I lived in that nonstop, at least 52 weeks, if not more. I didn't know if I was going to get in the ocean again. I was going from being in my tiny little world, a pretty decent, to near elite level swimming videographer, shooting big waves. I didn't know if I could put fins on my feet again because the burns were so bad on the top of my feet. I did not believe that I'd surf again. It just didn't seem feasible. So to be able to still take down, I was eating like 10,000 calories a day. That was the gig. 23 hours a day with compression garments, 10,000 calories a day. And then when I got sent home, clean yourself, debride yourself, do this all yourself.
Stop taking all those painkillers yourself. Like how the hell did you do that? Most people would come out of that coming off all those drugs, and I feel like 90% of people would develop a drug problem off of that. How did you beat that part of it?
I think I got lucky. I didn't. I can look at that now and go, I get the opioid epidemic, like deeply from the inside. I get it because it changes everything. Like I remember people walking into my room and I would gigglingly, I'm covered up like a gordita, and I'd be giggling going, don't take me seriously. I'm on drugs. Like if that's not a sign that it can fully change who you are and what you're going through, I don't know what is. Luckily for me, I don't love that. Sure, it felt good to be high in that sense, but I didn't like that. And then when I got home and I knew what I wanted, and frankly, if I'm 100% honest, I wanted to not view now that I look at it, I wanted to not view myself as an embarrassment. And then I thought I wanted to make other people proud and, not have my family or friends be embarrassed of Brett's this. And
so you felt like you had to make up for the accident.
I had to prove it to myself.
So you got a chip on your shoulder now.
I think it's gone now, but now what's left is
now is in that moment. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I looked at myself differently, more negatively. I had made an inexcusable mistake in my mind. I was always the guy that, like, I was 12 years old running boats. I was like every single one of my friends' wives and girlfriends. Where are you guys? What do you do? Brett's gone? All right, you can go. You'll be fine. Like, that's who I was. And then all of a sudden I made the most grievous mistake you could possibly make and, nearly paid for it with my life and still paid deeply, put unimaginable hell on my mother, my sister, my father, my friends. I could see in them how hard it was. They didn't know what the hell to do. Like, certain people didn't come to see me in the hospital or near afterwards. And at first I was a little bit upset. As I look back, I'm like, I wouldn't have wanted to do that. You kidding me? Like, that's so heavy. I'm grateful for what everybody put in the times that they did. Like, without a doubt, everybody was there when they needed to be and gave me what they could. And without that, I wouldn't have made it out the backside, at least not well. And so thank you, all of you.
I hear what you're saying about people, just not wanting to see you like that. Like,
how do you deal with it?
I know. And
what do you say? Like, that was one thing that I
don't know. I mean, I was just watching this movie that I haven't watched for the first time in like 10 years the other night, The King of New York, where like the opening scene, Lawrence Fishburne and Christopher Walken are having an exchange, and Chris Walken has been in jail, I think, for like a decade or something. And he's like, "Hey man, why didn't you come to see me?" And it's like this super tense moment. And he's like, "Why would I want to see you in a cage, man?"
It's real.
But he still loved him,
You got to understand, like, I heard a good quote recently. If when you're looking at somebody else and you're not happy with whatever it is, if you were them, if you were born with their genetics, with their life experience, you were standing there in their shoes, you'd be doing the exact same thing. And it's, the more I can think about it, the more I live. It's like, I can't get too upset about any of that. I don't know what they're going through. And then when I'm dealt the hand where I have to watch somebody that I care about, that I might love, in pain. Sometimes I just can't do it. But I hope that doesn't say too much negative about me, but I'm sure not going to take it negative about somebody else. You know,
it's not a negative thing. Like I had my fiance's grandfather passed away recently, and I had a moment where, you know, they asked me to be a pallbearer, and it was like, it was fucking super triggering, bro, because I lost my grandma and my dad during COVID. So there was like no funeral for either of them. And they were like two most important people in my life. And, you know, I wanted to do this and be the pallbearer and be strong and stuff. Dude, I had to go into Men's Warehouse 3 times trying to hold it together to get this suit, because all I kept thinking was like, selfishly thinking, why does this guy get a funeral and like my family doesn't, for like the two most important people, because of fucking COVID? And then I start to get fucking angry about that whole thing, and it's just like, I don't know, it's fucking tough, dude. But
well, and that's I think that's what I hope.
But I still did it. I still, you know.
And
after 3 times into Men's Warehouse, they're like, "Are you finally ready for try this fucking suit on now?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's just fucking get it done and over with. Let's go. Come on."
That's what the whole thing's about, man, is being there for each other. When we can be there for each other, and ultimately growing as much as we can all grow. And man, I'm not going to hold it against anybody if their life is complicated and they're not around. That's okay. You know, when they do come around, I'm going to still try and show them the same love and understanding that we're all living a screwed up life. You know, there's nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, all right, cool. The universe lift me a to-do list. And if I do all these things, then not only will my day be over, but I'll make money. I'll be happy, you know, down the list. I'll be fulfilled. It's like everybody wakes up and is like, oh shit, I got to figure this out again. You know,
straight up do it all over. How are we going to make money today? How are we going to make something out of nothing?
And it's honestly, when you can embrace that and drop the head noise, understand we're all doing the same thing, there's beauty in it. That's what the universe wants for us. We're supposed to go out there and figure it out. We're supposed to have, you know, some concern about how we're going to find our meal, and then put in a little bit of effort for it. And, you know, then maybe even have it with a little bit of fellowship with somebody. Like, those are the things that nourish us as humans, not, you know, this distilled down, like, okay, go to work and make this money, and then I can have this super nice meal prepared for me in a comfortable place.
Look how many likes I got today. And
yep, it's all, we're meant for adversity. And I think if you don't either create that for yourself in a positive way, or have that come to you in a natural way, you're going to find your own adversity, and it's not going to be so good.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I tend to find my own adversity because I thrive on adversity. I thrive on, I was just having this talk with my friend Ian the other night, and I was saying, man, I'm really up against the ropes again, this and that. You know, Black Friday sales didn't go the way they did in the past few years. He's like, man, I feel like whenever you're up against the wall, you always make your best moves. So just keep going. And he's right. That's really when I always do. So
puts you got to get that edge, huh? Hone that edge.
You have to. You have to, man.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about sharks and climate change.
Yes.
Yeah. So along the climate change lines, one thing obviously that everybody has talked about seeing, but I don't know that people really grasp the true level of change with our local water, with the reef death throughout my lifetime. When I was a kid, so my whole life we've run Biscayne Bay. Now our boat's too big to trailer, and we split time between Martin County and Islamorada and the Keys, so we run the boat back and forth. Back then we used to fish down there. There was a section where you had to run by sight, because the staghorn forest there would get like to the surface. Staghorn corals, like branching. I think those have been gone for 30 years probably. No, I mean, you won't find hard branching corals like that. Maybe in the Keys at all. Definitely below 60 feet of water. I've watched the bleachings happen on my reefs.
What causes the bleachings?
So coral bleaching it can be caused by it's stress. It is a last ditch attempt for coral to survive. But what our bleachings have been is temperature. We've had, I'd call it 3 distinct corals kills in Isla Mirada in my life. It's probably more, but I mean, I can picture vividly the very first time it happened. It was so surprising because nothing in the ocean is white. If you think about it, nothing is pure white in the ocean. We didn't grasp what was happening the first couple dives, and we would see these brain corals that were just like as white as you could picture white, and we were almost like, man, that's beautiful. And then we kind of realized what was going on, and we've now gone to where I've probably seen 95% of the reef die, regrow some, but with the like lesser, softer corals. But there are, shout out, I forget the guy's name, but there's a guy down there who's replanting coral. And
95% of it?
I would say so. I would say that we have a reef that we called Pretty Reef because it was, go figure, it was pretty. And that reef is now
real ugly.
No, it's still somewhat pretty, but now it's fans, sponges, and Cephastrias and some of the softer coral, chalice coral, some of the soft stuff that will grow relatively easily and quickly has covered up the old brain coral, and like it's dead rock that used to be reef that now has new, easier to grow reef growing on top of it. So there's reef, but it's not like it was. It's not a, this is how much it's changed down there this summer. So the turtle grass death is something we talk about here in the river, down in the Keys. I'm in the Keys this summer. I'm filleting yellowtail, just ripping through them, not paying attention. And one of our good friends, the Dones family's down from Kentucky. They're like our dive buddies, like the best Kentuckians you've ever pictured in the water, because they've been side by side with us since before I was born. So I'm doing that, and Emma, old Duty Frog's next to me. She's like, oh, the manatee's eating the carcasses. I was like, yeah, no, manatees don't eat fish. They're like, funny. She's like, no, like, Brett, look. I look over, this manatee is eating yellowtail carcasses faster than they're getting to the bottom, catching them with his front flippers and eating the whole carcass. Never seen it in my life. Like, never heard of it. I've told multiple people the story. Nobody else has ever heard of it. But the level of stress on them is that high. The fishing, the amount of stuff that we're putting in the water ourselves at cleaning tables is that high that they're figured out adapting, I guess. At least one of them did.
That's wild.
I watched it put down a dozen of them.
A dozen.
Back to back, just slurping them. Crazy.
It's crazy, man. I've seen them in my backyard, like, come out and like eat the mangroves and eat the trees and stuff, but
yeah, usually they eat, algae
fish.
and seagrasses, and
it's funny though. I poured all that bunker chum in there for the past like 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden there's like 40 of them back there. I don't know. Maybe they're attracted to that a little bit. I don't know.
They're all turning carnivores.
Yeah, they're all turning.
Well, I was laughing with them. I was like,
there's gonna be manatee attacks.
I was like, watch, like 100 years after we're gone, they're gonna grow teeth and stuff and be like sea wolves.
Yeah, they're gonna be like fucking, what are they called? The lions back in the day, the saber-toothed tigers.
Of the sea.
Of the sea. That'd be wild. I guess those are already walruses, but do they eat fish, right? They don't kill anything big though.
I'm from Florida. I figure I shouldn't find that one out.
Well, I swear I almost caught a striper the other day in the backyard. No one's going to believe that until I do it, so I'm not even going to tell the story.
I think you should prove it.
I got to prove it.
Yeah.
I got to prove it.
I heard about snapper up in Virginia, so maybe they're swapping.
I mean, I caught 2 bluefish back there, and then in that same session, the striper came. It was not a snook, man. It turned completely on its side, and I saw all the stripes. It was probably a 12 to 15 pounder. Took me in the dock. Didn't see it again.
Come on,
but,
you gotta get it.
One of the rules of the Brooklyn Fishing Club is no picture. It didn't happen, so that never happened, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a fishing story. I think that's one thing that's being lost, in my opinion, is the art of a great fishing story.
Yeah, I know. A true one without the lies.
What's that?
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking. Then it wouldn't even be a fishing story.
Exactly. Just be boring.
Oh man. So what have been some of the keys to succeeding with your company considering how much competition is out there?
I think number one is just relentless hard work. Obviously you got to be on the right path.
Let's talk about that for a second. How many hours are you putting in? Because you texted me at 3:45 this morning, already up, already working.
I would say I'm putting in all of the hours. That's the way that I look at it. I'm genuinely, this is what I do now. I don't see my family too much. They're like an hour drive each way. So that's a sacrifice that I don't get to make as much as I'd like. I pretty much am up, in the 3-4 o'clock hour most mornings and straight to whether it's testing a bait, making a bait, designing a bait, the whole of this company comes down to me and Dewey. And, really when you talk about it, it comes down to me. So I would say, it's 7 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day. And it's not real comfortable. How'd you like the plastic room? It was a little warm.
I think it's cool. I wouldn't spend too much time in there if I could help it, but
it's not, I
know you have to.
It's not a real enjoyable thing. We burn ourselves a lot. We're sweating in awkward positions and it is, I wouldn't say a labor of love. We're trying to get paid, but it truly is as hard as you could picture it being. And that's just on the aspect of trying to make, a bait to be able to compete with people who make them on a much grander scale and to be able to compete with people who have more horsepower behind them and teams of design people. And, you got to put everything into that, but then step aside. And now you're still talking about running a small business. And that, as you know, is no joke.
And you're still trying to fish too.
Honest to God, I would say that I only get to how I view fishing, like truly fish. I only get to do it a couple times a year. I really don't it's rare for me to go, okay, I'm going to go out and go fish the way that I would like to fish to whatever that is, Typically I'm going out with certain things tied on to certain rods to test stuff. I'm force feeding a color and, I might finish off or start a session, quote unquote, fishing. So I have like a sample of what I think the fishing is if I'm comparing something. A lot of times it's marketing. I mean, I can tell you of a handful of fish I shouldn't have even caught that I just got lucky because I was force feeding a color that I needed marketing for in a bait that we were releasing. And that was what I was going to fish. Cross your fingers. Here we go. So I would love to say that I'm doing that. The only thing I make time for outside of my dog and my family with less frequency than I'd like is if there's waves I'm going to surf. That's it.
Have you ever thought about starting like a Hen Lures Pro staff?
I'm forced to think about it a lot. I get asked for sponsorships, more than I get sales when the market's not good.
Because I was just thinking that could be a way that, instead of you having to go test out the baits, maybe you'd find a few Sharpies or hammers, or what do you guys call Sharpies down here? Hammers? Yeah. So find a few of those guys, I'm sure you're already doing this, but you got like Robbo, you got Adam.
Yeah, I've got a team of people that are behind me that I implicitly trust and they give their time to me. Just honestly, first off, we're small. Like for me to truly say I'm going to do a pro staff, I don't think it would be fair to them. I think it would be a lot more in name only.
I mean, if you set the expectations, for what they are with them from the beginning, like, hey, listen, you're gonna get X amount of baits every month to try out, and you just have to put Hen Lures in your bio,
Well, and I think I guess I maybe should have started with the other side of it, and I don't mean this as a negative, a shot. I hope it doesn't make people think less of Hen Lures. That's just not, to me, it's disingenuous. If I see a pro staff post a bait, if I'm even looking at fishing things on the internet or wherever, I'm just going to click past it. That dude's getting paid. Like, that opinion to me means nothing. Like, like I said, I can find you a dozen people and shoot, I could probably do it in 15 minutes if I actually posted something that are willing to post my stuff and put it in there because I say that there's something or whatever. I just, from a business perspective, I know how it could help, but I do believe that it's not really who Hen Lures is. Maybe someday, but not now. And I think honestly, from the other side, look, there's a ton of people who need sponsorships. They exist for a reason. If you're fishing your butt off and you believe in a product, you're going to use it anyways. You're getting great content and that could support the company. There's absolutely no reason that people shouldn't have relationships and sponsorships. But the average person that I'm dealing with is actually like searching for something else, searching for some sense of worth, of like it's going to put a check behind them, as okay, this guy's legit. And it's like, it's just not, all it's going to do is force you to fish something you might not want to fish all the time and put more pressure on it. And I'd just assume do what we do, which is deal with people that believe in the company. I already know who they like. If you buy baits from me for a long enough period and you're not like a complete Guggen, like legitimately, like you can drag it and like catch a fit. You just even keep buying them and you're cool. You basically get sponsored. Like I see names over and over again. I hook them up. One of the big reasons I don't have a team is because why give some butt sniffer a bunch of free shit so he can look cool when I've got legit people supporting me doing awesome stuff that I know are already to a man going, man, you should try this. They see somebody in the scenario when it matters, face to face.
Word of mouth.
Yeah. Sebastian over on the West Coast, my buddy.
Yeah.
Hammer. I already knew this, but he, pointed out for good reason. Like, dude, he sees kids that aren't catching when he's catching. He's like, hey man, why don't you try Hen Lures? And when they're like, oh, I don't have any, or they don't, he's like, here, he'll give them a pack. You know why? Because he knows that kid's going to start catching fish. And not just that he's, going to make a sale for me or be able to pat himself on the back. He's going to make them have more fun. He's going to open their mind up some. He's going to make people, potentially realize that I need to stop paying attention to what I see on the internet and start listening to the people that are fishing the water around me. Right. You're going to learn a lot more that way, and you're going to have a lot more fun fishing for those types of, whether it's efficacy or whatever it is, that a goal like that versus like at so-and-so fishy guy is throwing at this acronym bait. If I do that, I'm going to be cool. Or that this company has, the most followers. So therefore, if I catch a fish on their bait and I tag them, they're going to share me and I'm going to get more clout or whatever they call it anymore. Like,
right. So how many of these pro staffers for other bait companies do you think, because I've heard a lot of Sharpies up north taking shots at people because they think a lot of these pro staff guys catch, they'll catch it on live bait or something, and then they'll put like, the acronym bait or whatever, like in the fish's mouth for the picture, take the picture just so they can get on that page,
I mean, I hear it all. People love to talk to me.
We hear it all, guys. We hear it all.
I get
Trust
a lot
and believe that.
I get a lot more stories than I care about, period. Just let's know that about me. I really don't care. But yeah, no, I hear the, so-and-so's fishing a tournament for, whatever company's team and it's tough at the spill and that's where the big ones are. I'll just throw a cichlid on the jig head. Like, no, I hear things, but it's cheap. Yeah, I'm not there. Talk is always cheap. People love to, for all I know, like someone could have made a joke. He or she could have made that joke. Like, I'll do this. And that person then, because they don't like the success or that they're on the pro staff, starts talking trash, But I think the unfortunate thing that I know is facts is that those relationships with people who, maybe have a weak moment or don't make great decisions to begin with do lead to harming fish and disingenuous behavior. I mean, you can sum it all up is why I think that pro staff things as far as we go is it's just disingenuous. And add in, I'm not
corny.
trying to.
Like, it's kind of a corny thing because these guys, you say they're getting paid. I think some of these guys are getting paid, but I think for the most part,
Oh, no one's getting paid.
For the most part, there's a lot of just like young kids that are.
So
all they want is like that prominent like.
So
Instagram
let's be clear of one thing
in their bio.
Like one important thing for kids to understand: pro staff does not mean professional staff. It means promotional staff.
Woo! Thank you.
You're not getting paid.
Thank you.
No one's getting paid to fish. Flip Pallet's not getting paid to fish. You are getting free or cheap baits and gear in order to promote the baits and gear. And when you are not generating more sales than the free stuff you're getting, you get evaluated. Then you better have a better relationship. Like, one thing that bothers me is look, if you want to get sponsored, I'll teach you how. It's so simple. Pick a winner, somebody that you believe in, shit you're already going to use. Develop a relationship with them. Make sure they see your name. You're buying stuff and they're seeing your name over and over. Now prove your value to them. Go hammer on it. Go get barreled on it. Go make artwork with it. Whatever that, go shoot through the same hole with your arrow, and then show them that and keep proving that with good content. You're not going to have to ask for a sponsorship. They're going to ask you. And you're going to get a much better deal. Boom. Seal that up. Like, I've done it multiple times. But what the secret is eventually you either want to wear different shit, you want to fish a different lure, or you grow up and realize, I don't want to push this stuff enough, or I'm not selling enough, or they go, dude, your promo code only got $300 in sales and we gave you $1,500 again this year. Like, come on, man. And then they start putting all these other things on top of it. You're not getting paid. You want to get paid? Get a job. This is the best advice my dad ever gave. He said it from when I was like 4 months old. No matter what, the answer was get a job. And you know what? The guy was right. It feels way better to have a job, earn it, buy what the heck I want, when I want. Sponsorship, I hit someone up and go, hey man, I want that. How much is it? That's where it's at. You know, whether we're a sponsored athlete, a sponsored show, whatever it is, even if you think you know what's going on or you feel as though you've generated value, you're not in that boardroom and you don't know the like other business pressures. And I mean, I've had good experiences with sponsors, like all of them. I'm not trying to say that even a negative one will make you realize that it's probably not for the best, like, you know, because you're not going to get, even if you do get that pat on the back, even if you get that viral post that goes to 5 continents, like I got once, it means nothing. The next day, it's all right. What's the next one?
Just a little shot of
dopamine, man.
Dopamine, yeah.
Quick dopamine hit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna front. At one point, I did have a little BFC pro staff, but it was like just wearing the gear, you know. So it didn't have as much to do with like hooking the fish and like bothering the fish. It was just like.
Honestly, that's another thing too.
Wearing the shirt just in the picture or wearing the hat in the picture. And, you know, I still send guys stuff for free, you know, that I've known for years just because I know they'll rock it, you know. So. Oh,
don't get me wrong. There's a staff.
Yeah.
There's a family, I'll say.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely. There's definitely a family.
There are guys that.
Wolf pack.
Will always get free stuff and will always try to pay me. Like Robbo, every time he comes over, I load him up with, you know, it's stuff I need fished. It's stuff I need feedback on. It's stuff that maybe I thought of him and, you know, or just like he gets blems and stuff. Hey man, get to know me. You might get some, but every time, man, what do I owe you? Oh, $20 or something. Every time.
That's awesome, man.
Why do this if you can't hook up the people that you love, man?
And like, the people that are showing you love back.
That's
like,
it.
We just had this guy. Shout out to George. He posted something yesterday. He's listened to our podcast for almost 12,000 minutes this year, which comes out to about 200 hours of listening time. And George, I just want to shout you out, bro. Thank you so much for being such a fan of the show. Sent your package out today with the Biggie hoodie and a bunch of other swag. So thank you again for listening.
Yeah, George, thank you.
Dude, it's so crazy too because I was telling this to Brett with the numbers for the podcast, the way they count it, like it hasn't caught up to the way they count streams and the way they count music plays, I guess. So even though George, let's say he's downloaded all 58 of the episodes, but he's listened to them for 200 hours, all it counts for is 58 downloads total. So it's kind of hard to gauge like how many people are really listening to how much of the show, but I'm just assuming a lot of people are. So thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. One other question I wanted to ask you was, you experienced the fishing industry obviously before social media. What are some of the pros and cons that you've seen come out of it as it's advanced throughout the industry?
Well, pros are, there's a whole new audience and group of fishermen out there, and it's amazing. I mean, when I was in high school, I was a dork for fishing. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like my school was cool and everyone was inclusive and the dorks still got to hang out, but like I was one of the couple guys that showed up to a party if it was on the water at, so and so's friend's house. We'd go on my boat and we'd be wearing our fishing boots and a t-shirt and baggies, and of course when the cops showed up, we hopped back on the boat and we're like, I don't know these idiots, we're just standing here watching them. So it was just different then. No one really, like, when people came fishing with us, if it was on someone else's boat, let's say, and like, oh yeah, they're going to come fishing, I instantly knew. I was like, all right, it's not really a serious fishing trip now. Like, great, you're going to be focused on the chick you're up in the tower with, and he's going to be drinking, and I'm going to be the one guy watching all the lines get tangled. Like, that sounds fun. But now you've got like a genuine interest in fishing from a lot more people, and I think that that's great. I think that dovetails straight into the negative, though, where it's just so cheap and easy to figure out, like, the true basic of what should I throw, where should I go. Like, this whole thing of like people look and just spot burning, like it blows my mind. Like, the whole thing exists. It took me like probably 18 months to figure out what this all meant and what I needed to do because of it. Because it wasn't, when I was a kid, there, like, to me, everything's a spot first and foremost. Literally everything's a spot. Like, go find water around here. I've probably caught a decent fish there or lost a decent fish there. Like, the time and a place for both. Probably both. So I've never really, like, I might see something where I know somebody's posting the exact second they caught it, and I'm like, okay, now I might know when certain things are feeding and not feeding in general, but it blew my mind to think people were trying to catch somebody else's fish that they already caught and released. Like, I was like, all right, so now I got to figure that out. And then the glory to me appears to be on the fish and the fishermen. You know what I mean? It's very much of a, like, let me show you how great I am sort of a society that's forming, and let's, build a group of people who tell each other that we're all great and lift each other up. And if you're not part of it, we're going to tear you down and, take cheap shots at what we don't like. And I think that it's just dangerous because the right things aren't being passed on enough. For me to go figure out what bait to fish and what was actually a potential fishing spot, I had to go do something and interact with people. And I was probably going to come across somebody that had been doing it for a long period of time. And I was probably going to listen to them. Now everybody's an expert before they ever even get to the spot. They're not going to, I've dealt with it. Like, I've walked up to try to help somebody from a safety perspective, from a fishing efficacy perspective, from any perspective, and gotten snapped at that I'm the idiot, and I think that to me is the bigger problem. We're losing respect for the fish, for the fishing areas,
for the etiquette,
for each other. People come into a new area. I had it happen around here where I was fishing a local spot, and the way we fish here, like, if I can cast to something, like, you're going to set up so you can cast to the edge where I can cast at the closest, or give me more space than that. There's other areas, I get it. You like, you're elbow to elbow. I've had people come up to me at 4 a.m, nobody else around whatsoever, and stand elbow to elbow and get aggressive and tell me, well, this is how we do it at Sebastian Inlet. We're not at Sebastian Inlet right now. There's nobody around. Fish like the shadow lines. And I pointed out 7 shadow lines that I could see from that exact spot. That lack of respect, that lack of like tread lightly. Like you might not only not upset somebody who that's their home, you might learn something too. Like if you come up and you're friendly and you give space but I can tell that you're a lost puppy, I'm going to show you how to find water. I'm going to make sure you get a meal. I might even cut my bait off and hand it to you when I'm leaving and go, dude, try this.
I mean, I showed up to town like a lost fucking puppy, and you took me fishing right away.
And we caught a couple little fishies.
Yes, we did. Yes, we
You know?
did.
But if you're a jerk, I might just slide to where you can see me hammer fish and hammer fish and hammer more fish. And let every one of them go when I know you're trying to keep dinner, even if I was going to keep dinner, and then walk away in like 10 minutes.
There is a petty side to you a little bit.
Look, don't get it twisted. There's a dog in there. I didn't survive what I survived because there's not an absolute lion inside me.
There's two dogs talking right now for sure.
I keep them tame. You know, I take them. Sometimes at 4 a.m, I take them out for a jog and I wear them out a little bit. You got to. But yeah, no, I'm all about, look, I keep saying how old I am, but I don't feel it in the negative ways. I just feel it in the like, I don't have time for the crap anymore. I don't have any desire to worry about somebody else's ego or my ego or how I've had so many people ask to like rank certain things with fishermen. And I'm like, what are we talking about?
No, I know. I just did some crazy shit like that myself where some guys up north are talking shit and I'm just like, let's go fish for fish. Posted 2 reels, many, many more to come from that if they want it. But it's all of a sudden super quiet. Can't hear you anymore because all you guys know how to do is catch fucking striped bass from the same pier and catch porgies on the Marine Parkway Bridge. But that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's also a little bit of a different environment up there. And I think we've talked about this a little bit. Like, I just feel like it's I don't know. The Northeast is it's a beast unto its own in terms of trolls, in terms of haters, in terms of the crabs in a barrel mentality. It seems like down here in Florida, there's enough to go around for everybody. There's enough water and I don't know. Maybe there's not enough spaces for people to fish in the city as there are in Florida. I mean, of course there aren't, but I'm just trying to think out loud about factors that contribute to, why it gets a little tense up there, why there's more fishing beef up there than there is down here.
I mean, there's a lot more people. There's no doubt. I mean, you got city environment with less access to water. Less. There's decent fish. There's good fishing. But
of course. No, I'm not trying to bash
I
New
think
York
it's
City at all. It's just like you said. There's limited spaces to fish, and then you got me thinking about like pier etiquette, like. And I know a lot of people listening will agree with me on this. In New York City, the pier etiquette is terrible in most places. Like, guys will go out, take up a whole corner with 6 rods, and they're just either just tangling themselves the whole time or they're tangling everybody else. And you can't even focus on trying to hook the fucking fish because you're worried is one of these guys' lines going to tangle me. And, it gets crazy. I mean... I don't know. And there's just like so many walks of life interacting. You have a crazy poaching problem because there's a lot of people that are fishing out of the East River and fishing around New York City for food. Like,
yeah, we're getting a lot more in our river here that
the poaching is out of control in New York City. I mean, I've always said we would have one of the best inshore blackfish / sea bass fisheries in the Northeast if it was heavily regulated, because it's all structure. Everything around the city is structure. And you're lucky if you go out, really lucky if you go out and get a limit of keeper blackfish from the shore. I mean, you'll catch a bunch of dinks, but then you see guys that have literally a trash bag and every little baby sea bass that comes up, everything is going in that trash bag. I've even seen a mother with 2 kids fishing in Prospect Park for bluegill, and Prospect Park is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I've found multiple bodies in there in the past few summers. It's filthy. And they are catching bluegill, putting them in a shopping bag or whatever, not even like a bucket, not even cleaning them. And she's got 2 little kids. And I'm like, are you really like taking those to eat them? And she's like, no, we're not. And I'm like, so why are you killing them? And she's like, mind your business, this and that. And I'm just like, okay, if you're going to eat them, good luck. But those kids are still developing young kids. I wouldn't be feeding them anything out of this lake. And she just gave me this look like, you don't have any idea what we're going through. Like, we can't even afford groceries. Like, it was something I reflected on after I left the park that day. Like,
that's a real thing.
Like, maybe that bluegill dinner is all they could come up with that day. Like,
there's anywhere from a dozen to 2 dozen cars in our river parks every single night with people sleeping in them. It's the homelessness, the struggle for food. It's all real. There are plenty of people that need that fish, but at the same time, there's a lot better way to go about all of this than what's happening too. It's frustrating that the powers that be seem to care a lot more about fining the rich guy for not having a anchor light right, or not having enough life vests on his boat, or something that's very easy and they know that they're going to get paid, versus actually responding to the call about poaching that I put in this summer in the Keys while I watched people the day after lobster season, not just taking lobster, but spearfishing in closed zones. And no, I mean, that should be one of the biggest days to patrol. They don't care.
It's crazy though, because I feel like FWC has a pretty wide net. And I mean, these guys carry guns, they have vests on, they're pretty official. I haven't even really interacted with too many DEC agents. But up in New York, there is not a very big budget for the DEC, which is the equivalent of the FWC. And so
we're underfunded too. It's a problem.
Man, they are super underfunded. I mean, we have up there, like, I think it's like less than 10 for the 5 boroughs.
Mm-hmm.
So you can call something in and you can call it in, and maybe they'll find I don't want to say anything bad about them. They're just so spread thin. Like,
yeah,
maybe
and
they'll
that's
find the time to get there. Maybe they won't.
That's where I was shooting at it from the FWC. Look, I know a couple of the guys. I've gotten to know them. They're good guys. They care. They want to do the best, but there's none of them. Like, when I was talking to them, they're not going to specifically fully tell you, but in my head, I was like, that means like 2/3 of the day there's one guy on shift for all of the whole county. And like weekends, they got 2 or 3 people, but like a lot of the time that they're supposed to be patrolling 3 giant fishing piers as well as all the waterways, there was like one Martin County FWC person. I mean, how are you going to cover that, And further, like, if you still have to get revenue, right? Like, you still have, so yeah, I get why you're going to go sit at the boat ramp next to the channel and try to catch people running into the no run zone with no life vest, with no whistle. Like, yeah, you got to get tickets.
Get a DUI guy or something.
If you run all over the place trying to do your real job, you may never find anything and never get anything done, and now you're fired.
Holy shit!
It's kind of self-perpetuating in that sense. But I mean, it
leaves me kind of speechless, because it's like you would just think that. You would think a lot of things. First of all, you'd think there would be more money allocated to protect the waterways. Then you would think that there would be more people trying to fuck with poachers. Because one of the biggest beefs I ever got into up there was because I called these dudes out for poaching, out of season, multiple stripers, over slot. I'm talking 6 stripers in, the middle of January. Completely over slot. And it started like, dude, I'm still on that beef may never die. I don't know, but it was something where I kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't even know if it's worth calling out poachers anymore. Like, because it's only caused me trouble. Like, I don't know. For a while there, I was on like a poacher hunting crusade. I thought like I was going to make a difference, but I don't know. I don't think there is a difference I can make other than telling people not to poach and telling people to just call the authorities when they see it happening, and, hope that guy's on shift that day and will come take care of it. That's all we can really do, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, you got
someone who's definitely fought back against poachers and fucked with them. I would recommend, guys, just if you see it happening, don't even say anything. You don't even know who you're talking to. You might get fucking stabbed. You know, like, just call the FWC, call the DEC, let them handle it. But
unfortunately, I would say in today's world, definitely be careful about the interactions you have. You don't know. And I've had so many seemingly simple, innocent interactions go negative that, yeah, definitely calling DEC, calling FWC in Florida, involving authorities is the right route for sure. Because look, for me, I'm a pretty big dude, and I'm also pretty witty and sarcastic. So I tend to say something, but it's typically just hoping that it's going to eat at them enough that they don't do it again. Point out what a douchebag you are if you have to take something illegally to eat. Like, man, if I was a good angler, I might be able to do this within the law while I walk away. But I'm not. I don't start something like that. I'm not. It's not up to us to keep a bad person from doing bad.
I know. I just felt like at the time, I don't know how to say it without sounding cocky, but at the time it was like BFC was like fully controlling the city. Like, we had a chapter in every borough. Like, we were regulating shit, and we did have a lot of guys in the club that, like, if they saw you do something, like, there was this one guy, Rick, in the club. Shout to Rick, who doesn't talk to me anymore for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I pulled a flare gun on his friend and whatever. That's a whole other story. But the kid fucking deserved it anyway. He's lucky I didn't shoot his ass.
You guys are popping off up there.
No, he gets crazy.
I'm in the state of Florida, bro.
Shout to Rick, though. Ricky the raccoon. I love that dude. He one time, he saw these guys poaching, and he just went over and stepped on all 3 of their fishing rods, threw all their shit right in the East River. And this kid is huge. Like, he's probably 6'7", and just like, he's not like, I wouldn't say he's like ripped, but he's just like, he looks like a fucking linebacker.
Well, if I'm going to build a pro staff, he's on it.
Yeah.
That's going to be my pro staff.
He was on my hit squad for a while. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he just looks at the guys like, what the fuck are you going to do? And they're just like, nothing. There was another story where some guy picked up, a guy had gone back to his car. It was a slow night. Guy went back to his car to get something. And everybody always like bungees their rods to the pier, right? Just in case it gets hit, So it got hit while he was in his car, and he came back, and some other guy had reeled in his fish, and he was like, "I don't." He was like, "Why the fuck would you touch my rod? Like, that's not your fish." And the guy was just like, "Dude, I was just trying to help. Your rod is about to go in the water. This and that." You know what that guy got for trying to help? A fucking cinder block to the back of his window of his car.
Damn. Yeah.
And he still gave him the fish. The guy still went home with the fish, but the fact that he couldn't reel it in and the guy touched his rod was a major fucking no-no, dude. I mean,
hey, you got to play by the rules.
You do. So there definitely is a weird level of pier etiquette to a certain extent. It comes down to, I guess, who the enforcers are out there at the time.
Well, look, one thing I'll say has been part of my life's knowledge experience. Things from I've traveled enough for myself, and I think it's key that I keep traveling to new places, that I know what I know doesn't necessarily apply. You know what I mean? When I step out of where I've learned what I've learned may not be so important anymore. I can use it to my benefit, but I need to stop and figure out, okay, where am I at now, and what are the new rules in this new place? So if you're not a local at a fishing pier, I'd say approach it if you're not a local at a discotheque in Costa Rica, and same way as if you're not a local at a beach break surfing spot in Bocas del Toro, Panama. Tread lightly, smile a lot, ask questions, make positive comments, and like try to learn. And if you see the heavy dude there, like try to make him your friend and ask him questions, because he's going to be the guy to punch somebody if someone is, like our buddy Sledge in Panama that we rented the boat from. Funny story. One of the early trips, we were at this place, Polo Beach. Polo's a legend. He is, like, I could tell 100 stories about Polo, but he's subsistence lived in the jungle by himself for now 62, 63 years.
He's an expat?
No, he's a black man in his own words. So one of the islands, there's multiple islands in Bocas del Toro. It's a province, but it's an island chain as well. One of the islands is kind of a mix of like Chinese descendant, Indian, like a European Spanish descendant, as well as Afro-Caribbean black guys. The other island is like you walked in Jamaica, Bastamentos, and Old Bank's the main town there. No roads. Like you walk down the street and it's all these badass shacks on the water and up the hill with fires going. You'll hear the different sound men playing their beats from the different houses, competing for your attention. Chickens, walking down the street. Well, Polo grew up there, and one day in school, the teacher beat him for something. He was being rude, and whapped him on the butt. And Polo didn't like it, and he said, "The hell with this!" And he just started walking. And he walked around the point, walked down. There's multiple beaches in a row. He went past First Beach. He went past Red Frog and Star Beach and all that, or Turtle Beach, I think it's called. And he stopped at this spot. And he's like, "Okay, this is it. I think I'll stay here." And it's the most beautiful place you've ever seen. It's surrounded by a almost dry coral reef with 2 passes in. And then inside of the coral reef is navigable along the beach, white sand beach, verdant green jungle.
Wait, so how old is he when he left the school?
He was about 14, 15.
And then he started living on his own in the wild.
On his own in the jungle.
That's fucking crazy.
Built a shack that still stands almost exactly how it was. He grew some things that you weren't supposed to grow for a while, grew a lot of things that you are. Traps food. You go there when the gringos show up, he'll have a list, of what you can get. And you can get I got the jungle chicken. I got the bush rabbit. Jungle chicken's iguana. You don't get jungle chicken much. They took care of that problem. The bush rabbit is rat. I've had it. Polo's rat sauce is something to behold. Bro.
Was it good?
It's hard to find the meat.
How was the iguana?
It never got to have the jungle chicken.
Oh, God.
They literally wiped him out for the most part. I saw
and
one.
Then what, from feeding them all to the tourists?
No, they like to eat them themselves.
Oh, okay, got it.
But yeah, he'll anything he can. So Blaine is one of my best friends from Virginia Beach, and that's who we rented the boat together. Well, he rented the boat. I was just the mate. Finally, somebody else was driving, and we would just run wild down there. And Polo loved us. We're his gringo boys. I don't even think he ever learned our names. Just, my gringo boys are here. Well, we got fish today. We got lobster today. Because we could free dive a little bit, and we'd bring our guns and stuff, and we'd literally go, "Polo, what would you like us to shoot?" And we won't hunt or fish his reef without his permission. And everything we would shoot goes straight to Polo. Clean it for him. We learned the way that he likes it clean, do the whole thing, and then we get to eat for free. And usually we'd bring him like a sack of rice and a bottle of rum or something he could sell to the tourists too. But the very first time I went, long-winded way getting back to that, I'm pulling up on this panga, and I've got a drone water housing with my 5D Mark IV cannon in it. I've got I've got like 10, 12 grand of shit in this boat. And I look at Lito and I'm like, "Dude, I can't, can I move this up by the shack?" And he's like, "You can leave it there, dude." I'm like, "What are you high right now?" It's like, "What, are you crazy?" He's like, "No, you can leave it there, dude. No one touch if it's in my boat, no one touch it." I was like, "Are you sure?" He goes, "And if they do, I get it back, dude." And that's Sledge.
That was it.
His nickname is Sledge him.
All right.
Yeah, he's
a
heavy,
I wonder
heavy
how
man.
he earned the name Sledge.
No one would tell me, but they would giggle like little kids when we'd ask the locals.
Yeah,
They would
probably
giggle.
Sledgehammered some dude's fucking brains in.
Yeah,
At one point or another.
Takes care of business.
He got his shit back.
We had some good
And
times.
then they
with them.
nicknamed him Sledge.
Went to a couple chicken fights. We had some good old
Really?
times there. Oh yeah,
That's awesome. I've always wanted to see a chicken fight.
we ran to some outer island places.
Was it brutal? Was the chicken fight brutal?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was watching, and it happened so fast.
Were they big chickens or like?
You're gonna make me say it, aren't you?
What? Big cock?
It was a large cock. Dude, they breed when you go down the street there. They it's not just chickens walking around. Like there'll be a chicken in a cage on a wire with weights on its legs.
Get the fuck out of here.
And like, what are you doing to that thing? He's like, "Oh, it's my fighting chicken, dude." Him training.
That's pretty badass, dude.
But no, and like, so we went to one.
Definitely not getting sponsored by PETA for this.
Lane went to regionals. I didn't get to go to regionals. I named it regionals because it was on the mainland. We went to an away game. He went to an away game. We were the financiers for a very brief period. And then we realized, number one, these guys are not very good at raising chicken fighters, I don't think. Or the mainland guys are way better. So we got smoked. And number two, I was like, so we finished the first one. And
how much money did you lose?
Oh, $20. I'm not an idiot, bro. But still, even at that, bro, we were VIP. Like we got, there was like press boxes
for chicken
in a
fights?
waterfront over the water bar that doesn't have walls and hardly has a roof. We were in that. Like we got the best view. We were taken care of, dude. If I needed a drink, believe me, I was getting a drink.
Box seats.
Like high roller $20 is what I'm trying to say,
crazy,
you know?
man.
So fight starts.
Man, I want to visit this place.
These chickens are like sizing each other up. And I'm just looking at everybody else because I cannot tell like if anything's even happening. And then they just go up and fly at each other and they're like using their little jabbers, you know? Well, they take the talons off. They bring them down to a nub. That was the coolest part. So before the fight, the chicken has like nub talons and this dude comes up and he's the spur man and he opens up a book. And again, I'm going to get to a point where I'm saying that this is not okay, but it's what they do. So he opens up a book and it's all turtle shell spurs because hunting turtles culturally for them is a long time significant thing. I did not participate in. I do not even know that they do it anymore.
No, people listening have to understand that there are different traditions and different cultures around the world. And you are an American. You're very fucking privileged and you have no right to judge what they're doing.
And this is genuinely, I spent a lot of time there. They don't do it either anymore at all, or they didn't do it around us. It was like literally this is old school cultural stuff for him. Right. So he opens up this book and it's the most beautiful tortoiseshell spurs ever. And he's like going through to find the ones that fit. So they get the spurs all on these roosters. And I didn't see the mainland guys, what they were doing. You know, I'm too worried about my cock.
When you say spurs, You mean like spurs like you would have on the back of a cowboy boot? Like what the fuck are we talking
so
about?
So a rooster has, you know, like its claw goes on the ground and basically its thumb is a spur. It's a giant nail.
Okay.
So that's how they fight is by jabbing with that.
So
but at a rooster fight, you take the spur down to a nub and then they put something else on that sharper.
They put the turtle.
So this in Bocus when they were doing
claw, kind of, or a turtle.
No,
finger?
They would literally reform a new spur. Say it looks just like a spur, but it was probably longer and it was sharper. So they would like, you know, if you had the spur, they would, let's say, file that thing all the way down to almost nothing and then put the same exact thing back on it. That's extra sharp and ready to fight, basically.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I
mean,
they
like turn them into like a raptor.
Well, I mean, some places I've heard of like razor blades and other things. It's gnarly. It's like, it's not that cool. So
well, does the chicken at least get eaten after it gets killed?
So this is where I'm going with it. Fight goes on. Like it's so fast. I can't tell what's going on. And I'm like, only knowing that we're losing badly because of every face on my side is not so happy. The other side's quite happy. And their bird was much bigger, I will say. We were supposed to fight a different bird. We got kind of hosed, but we didn't back down. And that's important. So we lose. They grab the chicken. And I'm like, at least I got a $20 bird, right? We're going to go grill this thing up, you know? Like, what? Not the coolest, but this is a warrior. You know, in theory, it signed up for it, and it's going to get eaten, and it's a pretty quick death. They finished it off. You know, they looked at me. They're like, nah, dude, that's nasty. I was like, well, you can feed it to the dogs, right? They're like, nah, dude. They train them up so much. It's like you can't eat it.
Shooting them with like steroids.
At that point, once that all played out, Blaine and I we didn't participate in that anymore. Like,
what is that steroid called? HGH or whatever?
Dude, these things were jacked. If they could afford HGH, they would definitely have them on HGH. And they might have a chance against the mainland.
I might have to go down there with some HGH and start fixing chicken fights.
Again, I want to say I didn't start that. I didn't finish it. I got out of there once I realized it was bad, but like it's culture.
They don't even feed it to the dogs.
It's culture.
And they let those dogs run wild.
Dude, he tried to feed houndfish to his dog. That dog's crazy, bro. With that same trip, we did the subsistence living with the Indians. We went hunting, and like we went hunting, bro, way out into the bush with dogs for it's called a conejo pintado.
With bow and arrow?
No, with dogs.
Just dogs.
Yeah, the front guy had a machete. I had my Bowie knife.
So the dogs take what are you going after?
It's
hogs?
it basically is like a tapir, a hog. It's called a conejo pintado.
Oh, a tapir.
Yep.
You got to hunt tapir with dogs.
We didn't find one.
Oh, that's so gnarly, though.
Oh yeah,
I've only seen them in like the
bush.
fucking San Diego Zoo, I think, when I was a kid.
Dude, we
I actually had like a weird phase in childhood where I was like obsessed with them. I thought they were so cool.
The pintados are cool. So pintado means painted. So they're like a spotted tapir. Yeah.
Is this like an endangered species you were hunting?
I don't know. It seemed like it. We couldn't find them.
Shit.
So we couldn't find them the whole time. We went like probably a half to 3/4 of a kilometer inland through like heavy, thick jungle. And then we got to the edge of the lake, which no one even knows there's a lake there. It's that far in the middle of this island. Like we talked to locals afterwards. We're like, oh, you seen the lake in the middle of Bastamentos? And they're like, there's no lake in there. I'm like, dude, I have a picture of it.
You think there's some fish in there?
Yeah, for sure.
Largemouth bass, maybe?
Oh, maybe. I can't see why not. So
maybe a world record hiding in there.
World record something. I left a shoe in there, I think. We got all the way to the edge, and you get to like 100 yards from it, and we started climbing in the mangroves, but they weren't like Florida like we were 20 feet in the air walking on mangrove roots.
And so the one guy is just up front, like hacking away.
Yep. We're trying to keep up.
And this is like a jungle machete. This is probably something he made, right? Like this isn't like something you bought at Walmart. Right?
It looks exactly like the ones that you bought at Walmart, but if you bought it in like 1914 and just never stopped using it.
So it looks
it's like half the width now.
It looks like rusty as shit.
But it's
still sharp.
10 times sharper than you've ever seen. Yeah.
Did you see him sharpening it? Or are they still like sharpening on like a wood on like a stone?
Like flint, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool.
Polo, the old man Polo calls his Gillette. It's legit, dude. You could shave with it.
That's fucking crazy. Bushido's blade.
He got a new one. Or someone got him a new one. I forget what happened. Handle broke, whatever. And they said they brought him this new machete, and they expected him to be like, "Oh yeah," it's like so pumped and like start using it. He's like, "Oh, thanks, man." He walks to the edge of the water and just throws it in the ocean. They're like, "Polo, you don't want it?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I got to get it ready." He left it in the water for like 7 days or something, and then he started sharpening it. It's different.
I got to go find this guy Polo and get him on the show, dude. That sounds like that would be a trip.
It won't make much sense. He'll call you Gringo Boy the whole time.
That's fine. We'll do subtitles.
He's a legend. He has all these songs that he wrote. They're all historical songs about like history of Panama and Bastamentos and stuff.
It's so sick.
The Rock Man.
And he's still there chilling right now.
Absolutely.
Fuck yeah, dude.
He's probably 86.
When was the last time you saw him?
I went last season and we didn't get to go by. There's been a lot going on there. Some dispute with the land between the neighbor and him, and now he's got like the security there. It's weird. It's just not like it used to be. Like we used to roll up like on a Sunday. It was locals day typically. And it'd be like all the local guys from Old Bank and me and Blaine and Polo and like some of the kids. And like usually the wives would be somewhere else. It'd just be like a bunch of dudes just killing shit and cooking it together and like a full communal deal. And then I don't know, Blaine went last year and he was like, they were like questioning who he was before he could even like go talk to Polo. He's like, "Don't worry about who I am." Dude.
Who was the security? Was it like government?
There are other local guys, but they're not.
Are they just trying to protect the place from like cartel?
It's weird. I don't even want to go into who's who and what's what, but it is.
I mean, just by the way you described like how the different islands have like different cultures and they're so close together. It must be
one. Then you have Western involvement.
Yeah, of course.
There's a big resort that's in there. There's money that's between non-money and non-money. Then you got money that wants to be there, and the fact that he's got the absolute best beach on the island. And then you add in that his ownership is sort of contestable. Like he got it by grandfathered rights. He sold it. In his words, he spent the money on women and booze. And then he got to come back as the caretaker. And then I think he might have even gotten it gifted back again. It's the weirdest lineage.
There's a famous soccer player has a quote where he's like, "I spend a lot of money on booze, birds, and cars. The rest of it I just squandered."
Yes. He didn't seem unhappy about It was like $1 million that he claims he spent on a good time.
Fuck yeah, dude. I love it.
It's a wild place.
Spend it if you got it.
There was a crazy it was a horrible situation, but there was a killing in the jungle there a few years ago that made things get weird too.
What was the story behind that one?
A backpack. So Bocas del Toro is a huge backpacker thing. Like, it's surfing. We call it East Coast Indonesia. The waves are insane. And let me throw in there, if you're going to go to Bocas del Toro, you need to get Black Owl Tour Company and my board Gordo, Router Cancel. That's your guy. Like, don't go any other way. He's the man. He's going to show you around and get you the real experience. It's a backpacker surfing place, but it is one of the most unique and beautiful places that you can get to from the United States, in my opinion. And it's full Caribbean, but in the most unique way. So this girl was a U.S. girl backpacking, went to the resort out there on the beach, had drinks by the pool. Apparently a couple of Indian guys, and I mean like literal, like there's Indians that still live there, saw her. They were really drunk. They followed her through the jungle and they choked her out with her bikini while they raped her. And like, it was horrible. And then the girl was a diplomat's daughter for the U.S. We were there when it all went down. It was like, we got told one day the jungle is closed. Like, we used to walk back there. You can hike from Old Bank to First Beach to surf. Like, we tried to go back just into the edge of the jungle. And there was I've never seen in my life a guy with a polo shirt and jeans and a weapon, and said the jungle's closed. Turn around. That was nuts. Which then the very next day, so I'm filming water photography, and we were filming at that beach, at Wizard Beach, First Beach. And the day before it was head high. So we were like, all right, cool. We're going to get these handful of shots that Blaine and I had been working on a video. And so he drops me off in the Panga, whips it around, and it went from head high to like 2 or 3 times overhead from the day before. So I like kicked into where I was going to film. I look up and you can't see a horizon, just wave after wave. I fought it for like 15 minutes until all of a sudden, like, I think I'm swimming out and I feel sand. I'm like knee deep. Stand up. I'm like in a river rapid all the way on the inside. And right when I stood up, I could see Blaine dropping into a wave, and he's like free falling. It's like 2 or 3 board lengths is coming down before he finally hits the bottom. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I get to the beach and I'm cramping, hyperventilating, like can barely even see, like have to sit down and kind of catch my breath. And then I realized I can't go in the jungle. The jungle's closed. And the only way they deal with stuff there's nothing on the islands. They take you to the mainland. So it's like, if I get stopped and I can't put together a good enough story and they wonder what the heck's going on, like I might be going to Chinandega or somewhere. What the heck's the name of it? The mainland, and like,
or you might just disappear out there.
Yeah, So I had to turn around and, assuming I was not going to make it out, swim my happy butt back out to the boat.
Holy shit!
I was pretty sure I wasn't going to make it too. He saved my ass that time. Blaine saved me a couple times.
Damn, bro.
But yeah, the long way of getting it. It's just been weird there, and now it's like fully nuclear weird. So I don't know. His beach has changed, but the man is he's the king of the island.
He's probably fighting for his crown. He has to watch a throne. It sounds like people want to come take his beach.
It is a Game of Thrones right there.
Yeah.
And we all call him Rey, king in Spanish, R-E-Y. He's El Rey. It's Polo, king of the island, best cook on the island. He got the lobster. He got the peas, the rice, the coconut. I got breadfruit.
What do you call it? The jungle chicken?
Jungle chicken. Got the bush rat.
I've actually heard jungle chicken is good. I've heard iguana is really good.
Tastes like chicken. They smoke the egg sacs, and they say that's amazing too. I don't know if I would try it or not.
Iguana roe. Oh God, I don't know if I would do that. That sounds like a fucking parasite waiting to happen. I don't know about that, dude.
Honestly, I would
maybe in the right part of the world where I know exactly
that would be the right part,
where I know exactly what they're feeding on. Like all they're eating is like this one fruit every day, or like
that's the only reason why I ate the bush rabbit, the rat.
Gotcha.
They live in a part of the jungle where there's breadfruit, there's there's a bunch of different types of fruit from around the world just grows naturally. So they're basically eating that, fruits and starches and stuff off the jungle floor. There's no city nearby. There's none of that. Like I doing it partially because I wanted to, for shock value, be able to say that, but it's legit. It's good. And there's no doubt that iguana would be good, and that's the place to have it.
And his rat sauce is banging, huh?
Dude, legitimately like the best sauce I think I put it up there with
Out
like
of all the sauces you've ever had on anything.
Dude, it's up there.
Wow.
It's just hard to get that much flavor, like a oxtail style, like it's got that type of a richness and hardiness and
kick to it
a little bit of a kick.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing with that rat.
Dude, it sounds like we need to go visit Polo, but we need to bring some guns with us.
No, we just bring a big smile and an even bigger bottle of rum.
And then we'd be
takes
fine.
care of everything.
All right. Let's just pull up on his beach.
Yeah, you definitely got to go. Hopefully Chavella will be back. Our girl, her and Leon, they run a restaurant that's literally in the middle of the jungle. Like you can't.
Doesn't get much cooler than that.
It looks, the whole place looks like a storybook. Like the tides are only 6 inches, so it's like the docks are rickety docks on the water. Like you take the boat over there at night to go to Chavella for dinner, and it looks like you're going into a scene of Pirates of the Caribbean. Like there's smoke billowing up the fucking hillside from the houses. You see little flickering lights and stuff. You walk down these dilapidated docks that you will fall through and hurt yourself if you don't pay attention.
It reminds me of the opening scene, or I guess the scene of Old Man in the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's walking down at the docks, and
it's exactly that.
The shark oil factory is smoking up in the distance, and all the. Yeah.
And then you go and just have this delicious rondon soup, breadfruit and yucca and parrotfish in it.
Oh man, I'm getting fucking hungry.
Yeah. Caribbean foods. Yeah, that's it.
Sounds banging, dude. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. Your support keeps us afloat. Don't forget to hook that extra 20% off at checkout with our promo code FISH in all caps. Until next time, tight lines, my friends.
Hey, don't you walk on me. walk on me, 'cause I worship the ground.